Hello and welcome to Shockwaves episode number 2. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Galuzzo. With me is Mr. Elric Kane.
Welcome to the deep end of horror.
Is that going to be?
I think I'm going to say it until Wiederhorn comes on the show. That is the official challenge.
I still like better than sex.
Better than sex. Better than sex.
How about deeper than sex?
That's
the deep end
weird.
of sex.
The deep end of sex. And our third host that likes better than sex is Rebecca McHenry. Wow.
What is up, guys?
We're already getting frisky.
Can we change that to better than sex with your spouses? Because that's just a given. Come on.
You really want to.
You know, it's more like Tinder sex, like really good Tinder sex.
Well, welcome to episode number 2. First and foremost, thank you so much to everybody that gave us so much tremendous feedback for episode 1.
Awesome stuff.
We really appreciate it. We love keeping the dialogue on our social medias. So, by all means, if you're not on there, it's Shockwaves Podcast on Facebook. And then it's Shockwave Pod on Twitter. And by all means, go on our iTunes page and definitely rate, review, and subscribe if you'd like. We're going to just kind of dive in and talk about movies that we've seen this week. We have one that all three of us have seen that we could chime in on. But before anything, let's do a little horror news. As this goes to press, we've just learned that the director of the new Insidious movie, Insidious Chapter 4, will be Adam Robital. We have a little bit of history with him because we interviewed him and Gavin Hefferman, his co-writer, on our show Killer POV, and those guys did a movie called The Taking of Deborah Logan, which was a movie that we learned about from our listeners on that show. So it's just kind of cool to hear.
Oh, and then we helped champion it further. So it wasn't like a movie we made champion. It started from the listeners to us,
yes.
like a baton. It passed on.
And then from there, we kept talking about it.
I remember getting messages from our listeners on Facebook being like, you have to see this. The final images of the film are the greatest this year. And I'm inclined to agree. Those were like some of my epic images.
Well, it's an interesting choice, too, because in the Insidious world, everything's so fantastic. And in that film, he made a film that's very realist.
Yes.
Like documentary. So I think it's an inspired choice, and I'm really curious what he will do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we will be getting Adam on the show.
Sure.
I'm sure at some point to discuss what he's got going on. But I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with it.
Yeah.
And I like new blood hitting those franchises, like especially when you get to like 4 of something.
Yeah, of
it's
course.
like get somebody who really needs it. This is kind of what we've been saying about Jason for forever. Like with Jason Voorhees, it's like I want new blood, young people who are coming up, have a lot to prove.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Throw it down, and what does the studio have to lose? Who cares? This one didn't work. Get the next one. You know.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Insidious can be that
thing.
too.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting, and again, it's just fun to see somebody kind of from the trenches, rising up. So, okay,
somebody who was in a gay werewolf movie finally broke through, which we've been waiting for.
And the 2000...
Oh, he was in Chillerama.
He is. He's the star.
He's in Chillerama. He's in the 2001 Maniacs and the sequel as well. That's pretty fun. So there you go.
He does have rather perfect hair.
He does. It is
it's
very
kind of
well
like, you're just like,
hair.
geez, it's like
we
Ken.
love your hair, Adam.
It's almost Ken-like.
Yes, very, very, probably yes. So all of us have seen. Let's talk about The Boy.
The Boy, which I finally watched.
Let's clarify because there's multiple movies called The Boy,
not the Chiller Boy or the Scream Factory Boy.
Yes, well, Scream Factory Spectrovision.
Yes, that's the one.
Which is a good movie.
Yeah, it's a cool movie.
I like that one a lot. It's serious in tone. This is separate. This is the theatrical release of The Boy.
Which just finally hit DVD.
Yes, and
the one about the creepy doll.
The creepy doll one, yes.
And his relationship with the Walking Dead girl.
Yes, exactly. Now, Elric and I saw this a couple of months ago, but Bekah, you just watched it for the first time.
I just got it off Amazon last night, because when this one went to the theaters, I was totally into the concept. It looked amazing, but that's when I was like really freaking pregnant, and nothing would make me leave the house. So I didn't see it in the theaters. I was very bummed. But so I got it last night off Netflix or Amazon. And I gotta say, it's like one of my favorite movies of the year so far.
Wow.
I did not
high praise.
Yeah, I did not see and it has a couple of like moments where I was like, I didn't see them going that way with the script. I didn't see
they
them
do
going
some random
that
things
way.
that really don't work. I think it's right on the middle point without a spoiler. They just go from like 0 to 100. They go from one of those moments in a movie where it's like, I don't believe in anything, to like within one scene, I completely am in on this, and you're like,
I don't know. I kind of liked the moment where she let somebody else in on it. I was kind of like, you know what? I wasn't expecting this, but I like that they went this way, that they didn't like try to decree the haunting the entire time and say it didn't exist.
Had either of you heard of grief dolls before? Is that like
grief dolls? Well, yeah. Let's talk about the plot in case anyone hasn't seen it. So, they call in. Who's the actress? The one from Walking Dead?
Lauren Cohen.
Lauren Cohen. Yeah. So she's called by an elderly couple to London. That's where it's set, right?
She's an American. Yeah.
Giant house. They're a very wealthy family to take care of their boy, and he requires special care. So she shows up, and the boy is actually bronze. It's a doll.
Brahms, yes.
Which is probably the best part of the movie, is the kind of giggle she gives when she sees it and thinks they're
so
joking and they're
so
serious.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a genuinely great moment. Like, you're just like, oh dear.
Right.
What have I gotten myself into?
And the concept is that it's a grief doll, that this couple has lost their child, and they got this doll kind of to represent and take the place of their kid, to continue the illusion that he's still there. So they hire her to do it. And so, creepy doll movie, creepy things happen around the house. Like, is the doll alive or what?
And they leave on vacation, some type of sabbatical, and she is given a list of things that she has to do with the doll each day, like music lessons and poetry, and change his clothes at a particular time.
Read to him, which I like.
Which
or play music for him.
Yeah.
Easiest job ever.
And she, as soon as they leave, is kind of like, well, fuck this, it's a doll, and puts him in a corner and throws a blanket over him, and then just continues on with her day. And then creepy shit starts happening, and she starts questioning if
Cue jump scare.
Yeah.
Cue jump scare.
Yeah. there's maybe one or two traditional jump scares too many, but it's fine. And I like the moment that Bekah's talking about, where when in most of these movies, like, it's just like, no, it can't be. But yeah, in one scene, she's like, wait a minute. I think this doll's... Hey, take a look at this doll.
And then it does something creepy, and everyone, like the other people in the room with her, are like, yeah, I saw that. And you're like, that never happens in movies.
She was actually a pretty good protagonist. Like, I actually thought that was a good character. Yeah. Like, it was fun.
And I love the irony that she is English, yet she still kept her...
That was pretty weird.
But I gotta say, in the last 15 minutes of the movie, it takes a complete... left turn and goes completely another direction, and I did not see that coming at all. And when it happened, I was just like, what?
Well, as I said when we originally covered this, I said it's the exact same twist as another movie. I'm just not going to say which movie from the last couple of years.
Yeah,
it's like beat for beat, but in a way that's still fun and works for it
and frightening when it happened.
It's
it was
still the right
creepy.
twist. If you hadn't seen the film we're talking about,
and I think it. I mean, I think it kind of. I don't want to say makes the movie, because the movie's okay. It's pretty traditional for a creepy doll movie, and follows the similar beats of that. But I think that's really what sets it apart, is that you have this conclusion that's pretty like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
I surprisingly liked it. I mean, it won't be like one of my favorites of the year, but it was definitely one of the most it's the most of that. And we don't talk about guilty pleasures, but in that way of that movie, is not like a great movie,
but thoroughly.
But you're like sitting there going, no, this is hitting all the beats for fun.
It's a popcorn movie,
and you can make fun of it, but then also enjoy the moment, which is kind of rare in horror now. So I had fun with it. I think it'll do.
It had enough jump scares and like, don't go in there stupid. Something's going to be in there. Moments that you can still enjoy it. And
it's no Ghost Dimension, but whatever.
Well, you guys let us know what you thought of The Boy.
Yeah.
What else did you guys see? I saw a couple of things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, because we've been, rebooting a whole show. We've probably seen a few movies.
A lot of movies.
I saw a Vinegar Syndrome release that I had only heard of before, called Frightmare, but not the Pete Walker Frightmare that most of us have seen. The British film. This movie actually was called The Horror Star.
Okay.
And it's an early Jeff Combs film. I think it's made the year or two before Reanimator.
Horror Star?
The Horror Star.
I'm Googling
and
that.
What's interesting is I watched this film with Dick Renner, and remember the movie I've talked about many times on the show? This is the only other horror film the guy made. Remember The Black Room that I always talk about?
Yeah.
So it turns out basically the same year, but probably before. The same director, Norman Thaddeus Vane. Yep, that's the cover.
This VHS cover is epic.
Yeah,
I remember this.
That for
sure.
Skull with a snake around and a knife through the eyes.
Knife through it, yeah.
I think it would probably make more sense if it was just called The Horror Star, because that's what it's about, rather than Frightmare. But Vinegar Syndrome put out a beautiful... It reminds me a lot in tone. to be honest, almost the exact same movie as Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. You know how Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things is about a theater group who go and get the dead body, and then they do. It's almost the same thing, but it's like basically a very famous, almost like Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee or Vincent Price, probably more Vincent Price character who's played all these horror characters. He is kind of, he's popular again at the end of his life, and then he drops dead. And this group of film students think it'd be funny to break into his whatever it is, his crypt. It's a very high-tech crypt, and steal his body and take it back to the cool film hipster thing. Also has a little bit of a feel of popcorn, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they take the thing, and then somebody else does a demonic spell kind of possession thing, and he comes back to life, and it becomes second half's a straight slasher movie, and the first half's totally goofy, like, tongue-in-cheek, wink-wink audience, kind of doesn't quite work horror film. And so it's a really weird tonal movie. And Jeff Combs is one of the kids, he's probably, 20 or whatever. It's the weird turn. The second half worked more for me. It's a very strange film, but, I think people kind of dig it if they're into that. The start is can't because he's really kind of gotten ready for his death. He's one of these, like, it's Vincent Price. Imagine Vincent Price deciding, well, I know somebody's eventually going to come to my crypt, so I'll booby trap it, and I'll be prepared for them. It's pretty silly. But it
sounds fun.
Yeah, I think our kind of listeners would probably actually enjoy this one, and I don't think it got a lot of heat from Vinegar Syndrome. I know they're a smaller label, but I think people, if you like Children Shouldn't Play with That Thing, you definitely enjoy it.
Wow,
very similar tone.
I've got one similar to the two that we've already talked about that I think I should mention now. This just came out on VOD and in limited theatrical. It's a movie called Most Likely to Die. And it's the newest one directed by Anthony de Blasi. And what I love about Anthony is he's got, at this point, he's done every type of horror movie. Yeah. The one that a lot of people know is The Last Shift.
Which was amazing. One of my favorite films of last year.
Cool, kind of supernatural Netflix sleeper hit. It was the sort of thing that everyone found in Netflix Instant, and we're like, oh, it's really good.
The shit out of me.
And he started out with doing an adaptation of Clive Barker's Dread, which is a pretty straightforward, kind of nasty horror movie.
It's a bleak film,
It is.
Yeah.
Very bleak. That's the word I was looking for. So he's done quite a lot of these different types of things. Casadega is kind of like the serial killer, like 80s style horror movie. So now he did this one called Most Likely to Die. He didn't write it, he directed it, but it's essentially... for lack of a better term, it's kind of like just Slaughter High, which is it's a 10-year high school reunion. A group of people are getting together. They've all had various degrees of success. So the guy that's throwing the party was like on the New York Rangers, and he just got cut from the team, so he's kind of depressed, and he's got all these people coming over, and essentially they all have this big party the night before their reunion. And start talking, there's in the yearbooks it's most likely to, and, whatever. They had what was he going to be or whatever. And, of course, they bring up, remember that one guy, John Doe, the one that we tortured in high school and really embarrassed him by, like, they changed the yearbook so everyone printed his face, like, blacked out, and it said most likely to die. Yeah.
Right at that point of watching that movie, I already I don't care if any of you live. You're all dead to me at that point.
And that's the fun of it. And then all of a sudden, a guy in a graduate costume and mask starts taking them all out one by one. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's not, it's the reason I like it is because it like all those 90s post-Scream slashers have kind of an aesthetic to them, where at the time they were coming out, I was kind of like, these freaking movies. But now looking back, there's something fun about that. So this isn't anything groundbreaking. It's nothing new and original, but it's a fun, brisk 80-minute movie that takes the plot of Slaughter High and applies a 90s slasher aesthetic to it. So I had a lot of fun with it. Also, I have to mention that Perez Hilton is in it. So that's
weird.
That's like their one name. Yeah, and he's kind of like brash and obnoxious as usual.
I saw him at Pinkberry a couple of months ago.
So he's one of the graduates?
He's one of the graduates.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun, yeah.
So everyone has, and as is the case with any of these type of movies, of course it's like these people haven't seen each other and known each other in 10 years, so slowly little secrets start to pop out that kind of turn them against each other because they're like, wait, is it one of us? Is it that John Doe guy we tortured? Like, who is it that's, this killer? And the kills are okay. There's one or two that are really good. There is one that is so good, it's already like my top kill of the year.
Oh, whoa.
Wow.
So, there's one kill in it that the entire audience started cheering because I got to see it on the big screen with an audience. So it's probably only playing in a few theaters out there. but I strongly recommend it. It's again, it's not a great movie by any means. They unfortunately fall into a lot of the typical tropes of the 90s slasher, where you're like, why would you do that? Why would you separate? That sort of thing. But I still had a lot of fun with it because it's been so long since we've had one that it feels fun and fresh to get one again.
Anthony's like on a film a year.
Yeah.
I know, he makes one a year, and they're all completely different from the last.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
How can we see this one? Do they have plans for it after the theatrical run?
Well, actually, I double checked before we did the show. It's on Amazon right now for rental. So it's on VOD and limited theatrical. And then I believe there'll be a Blu-ray a little bit later in the year.
Sweet.
And inevitably Netflix Instant as well. So yeah, worth checking out.
Cool.
What else did you guys see?
I didn't get to talk about it last week, so I'll talk about Wild Zero now. I just briefly mentioned it last week. Yeah, Elric, I can't believe that
I don't know this. I don't even think I've seen a cover.
It's really wild.
1999. It is 1999 Japanese film, although it was filmed in Thailand, and it is about a band called Guitar Wolf, and this guy. Who completely idolizes the band, and they get the band ends up in kind of a brawl backstage of one of their concerts, and this guy comes in and is like helping him out, rock and roll forever. And so they give him a magic whistle, because you get the idea that this band is somehow kind of like not supernatural, but they're almost superhero like in their badassery and how they can kind of do crazy stunts and things like that. His microphone blows flames. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Okay.
And so anyways, this guy gets this magic whistle, and the band says, if you're ever in trouble, just blow this and we will appear and help you. Flash forward a while, he gets stuck in this, and it's very kind of Plan 9, an alien invasion that turns people into zombies, which totally makes sense if you know Japanese horror. And so then this is the kind of zombie invasion going on. And he gets into a jam, and he blows the whistle, and Guitar Wolf appears and starts helping him out. And it is just the most kick-ass rock and roll movie ever.
Here's my pitch for you, because I haven't seen it in years, but my memory is so strong of it that I remember it being like, imagine if this was a movie about if the Japanese version of the Ramones were in Peter Jackson's debut film.
That's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
fun.
the energy
of
it. Yeah.
And it's so fast moving, and it does have so much energy. And I mean, it's still low budget. I mean, the zombies look like crap, and I mean, it's got some.
But that's part of the charm.
I know, it's part of the charm. It works with it. And yeah, they are this very kind of Ramones band, and their music is spread throughout, and it's surprisingly good. They're a real band out of Japan, Guitar Wolf. You can check them out. But then it's also got there was a point where I was like, is that Bikini Kill? I hear Bikini Kill playing. So I think that they borrow some songs, which I'm assuming they may or may not have the rights for. The soundtrack itself is absolutely amazing. Like, I really wish they would release it on vinyl. But then there's these other songs that I hear slipped in small amounts, like Ramones, I swear. I heard at one point Bikini Kill, and they do not make it onto the official soundtrack.
Yeah.
But yeah, just in general, like, the music throughout is amazing.
Yeah,
and it's just
Synapse Films put it out on DVD. I wish there was a Blu-ray.
It needs a
of
blue. It really
Yeah.
does. It's just a super fun, fast-moving, light film that it's just, and I know that you'll get this, Elric, because you've mentioned this kind of concept before. It's one of these things that you watch and you go, fuck, I wish I'd made that.
Yeah.
It's just that good. Like, it's just what I would make.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool, though.
Wow.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Back on our old show, we had Sam Zimmerman, who was one of your writers at Fangoria back in the day. He now runs Shudder, and we were talking about Shudder.
Curator for Shudder.
One of his favorite films of the year, and one that he was really raving about, was a film called Anguish, a new film, not the old 80s film, Spanish film called Anguish. There's a brand new film called Anguish that is on Netflix streaming, and it's a grief/possession film. So it's about losing someone, but then also somebody being possessed. And, it has all the... Sometimes with Sam's taste, it's funny, because we have quite similar taste, probably of anyone who out there writing, to be honest, usually. But then there'll always be a couple that I just kind of totally disagree on. Mm-hmm. And this one, I would say I pretty much disagree on. It's by Sonny Mali, who was the producer of The Strangers, and something else that was big. I can't remember what it was, but this is a directing debut, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's very artful, but also kind of obvious in its choices. And the one thing that... It's basically a young girl who kind of, having a fight with her mom. Opening scene, gets out of the car, gets hit by a truck, dies. And you're like, oh, I thought that was going to be the character I'm watching, right? And then very quickly, another girl in the same town is basically being possessed by that girl. who she has similar tendencies. And instead of being a thrilling, scary movie, it's kind of sad and a little bit of a bummer. But there are moments where I can tell they're really going for big scares. And I think some people it might really work for some people, but it felt all in the sound design to me. And when I see a movie that's where all the scares are orchestrated through sound, it never works on me anymore. I'm just too aware of what I'm watching. The camera has to be a participant in getting a scare from me. And so for me, I just found the whole thing to be like interesting, and it had some really nice like emotional stuff, because the two moms of one of the deceased and one whose daughter's now becoming this other woman. So the girl now wants to go see the actual mom. You know, actually, I want to go see my mom because she's possessed her. Right. So it's kind of weird. So it's interesting in that sense. I think if somebody is really interested in possession movies, it's a must see, because it is twisting a very familiar formula, but it just didn't completely grab me. But it is easy to watch and free on Netflix. So on that level, you might dig it. Glad I watched it, though. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. The other one I wanted to talk about, it's two movies, actually. Kino Lorbo has been putting out a lot of
I have a Kino film, too.
Oh, do you?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
And I just got copies of The Magnetic Monster and Really Strange or Really Weird Tales. I can't even remember. But yeah, they just sent me a whole bunch of more stuff that I'm just like, this looks like awesome stuff.
Yeah, they're starting to do some pretty quality work with Blu-ray releases. But I picked up a movie called Highway to Hell, which was a big VHS thing. We got to watch it eventually. But the ones I wanted to talk about today that they put out are FX and FX2.
Such fun.
They're not horror movies by any means, but if you're a horror fan, you would absolutely love them. It's been years since I've seen them, and watching them on Blu-ray again, as a little bit older, because I saw them as a teenager, I just appreciated them so much more in terms of craft and story. And they star Brian Brown and Brian Dennehy. Essentially, Brian Brown is like the number one effects artist in the industry. He's kind of like the Rick Baker.
You can just say Brian Squared.
Brian Squared. Brian Squared stars in this movie. But Brian Brown is this guy, Raleigh Tyler, who's like the most celebrated effects guy. And he gets approached by the cops, who are essentially like, look, we hear you're the best at this. You can create any illusion. We've seen you in action. We've got a guy that's going to witness protection. He's like, he was the head of the mob, but he's turning on them. And what we want to do is plan a very public execution so that everyone thinks he's dead. And at first, he's like, I don't really get involved in that sort of stuff. But they managed to kind of convince him through ego, because they're like, we should have called so-and-so. And he's like, all right, I'll do it. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. And so it happens, but of course, at the last minute, they convince him to be the gunman. They're like, well, you're the effects guy. You got to make sure nothing goes wrong. And then it seems almost like they maybe switched out his blanks. And now he's on the run, and the cops that hired him are now trying to kill him, because it's all part of some sort of conspiracy. But what's fun about it, and this is the thing, if you were a kid that was an aspiring effects artist, he's kind of the hero in the sense that he's able to kind of stay one step ahead and trick people with his talent of effects. Like anytime he thinks, somebody's about to catch him, he'll pull some sort of gag off and kind of get away.
He's like Fletch.
He's totally the Fletch of effects. And Brian Dennehy is a cop that's after the mob guy and is not convinced that he really died. He smells conspiracy. So that's the first movie. It's really great. It was directed by a guy named Robert Mandel. And believe it or not, I actually like the second one better, which was directed by Richard Franklin, who did Psycho 2 and Patrick and Road Games. Richard Franklin was a student of Hitchcock, and this is totally a Hitchcock-style thriller. So he really pushes it on effects too, and makes it even more thoroughly entertaining. Where Raleigh's retired now, and he's just doing his gags as toys, like elaborate children's toys, including this like life-size clown called Bluey, which is like the image that everybody remembers. It's just like this giant, like creepy-looking clown thing. And same deal, like his girlfriend, her ex-husband is a cop. And essentially, same deal, asks him to help out on this case. It's really important. Things go wrong. But what I like about the second one is, even though you think of those two Brians, the Brian Squareds,
Brian Squared,
they're actually, in part one, I think they maybe have one scene together. They're like,
what?
They're both prominent parts of the movie.
Maybe it's FX2 that I always get nostalgic for them.
And that's the thing. FX, like now there's history. There's 5 years between the two movies. So in FX2, you get to see Brian Brown and Brian Dennehy together a lot. That's what I forgot when I was rewatching them, because I blend them both together. Yeah. But technically, even though they're in the first movie a lot, they only have one scene together.
Oh, weird.
So their rapport, their friendship by part two is just so much fun. So
They're
yeah,
my all-time favorite buddy movie. Like, so I'm probably talking about two, but honestly, growing up, they were my favorite two people together. Like, I love that.
And the thing that shocked me, I was tweeting about it right before I wrote some articles for Blumhouse.com, was somebody told me that in the mid-'90s there was an Effects, the series, a TV series that lasted one season. Not Brian
You got to hunt
Brown.
this one down.
I watched a piece of it, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And then Dan Budnick, who wrote Bleeding Skull, the book on the website, he reached out to me because he would know this. He's like, have you ever heard of the Effects ripoff movie, SFX Retaliator?
Oh, my God. Like, that's a brilliant title.
No, but I will find it now because you told me it exists. So I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I'm on the hunt for that.
Yeah, that's really interesting about part two. I got to rewatch part two because part one's plot is pretty clear in my mind.
Right.
Part two I can't totally remember, so maybe.
Yeah,
so wait, fun. Circling back to the Kino Lorber, did they do a blue release of this?
Yeah, they're both on Blu-ray.
Oh man, because I have the double DVD.
No, they're two separate ones, and honestly, I think I bought them maybe for $15 a piece on Amazon.
Okay.
They weren't that expensive, and there's a couple of it's not full-on special editions the way that like a Scream Factory do, but I think they carted over some commentaries, and there's like some vintage behind the scenes, like some quick featurettes and stuff.
Nice.
So it's actually a good package for considering the price.
The Kino one, I kind of mentioned in our first episode, but I had just rewatched. I hadn't seen it since as a kid, and so I didn't really have a firm idea of the story, just the imagery. But Barbara Steele's Black Sunday was a Kino release, and seeing that on Blu-ray, one of the reasons I hadn't rewatched it actually was because I kept waiting to see it in cinemas, and it just kept never playing in cinemas. And then I watched it on Blu-ray last week, and then in 2 weeks it plays at Cinefamily as part of the Witches thing, and I was really
They've got some really cool stuff.
It's a really cool. All of Them Witches is the festival, and it's a really cool.
I've already
lineup.
got tickets for
Eyes
a
of
couple
Fire
of
is
the
the one I have
nights.
to see.
I'm going to that. I already got my tickets
because I've never seen it, and you haven't seen that, right?
Which one?
Eyes of Fire.
No.
It's their really
so
rare
good.
screening.
Okay. I wrote about that one
just
last week when I did an article on movies that are trapped on VHS.
Yeah,
it's such a cool movie.
People have been talking about it a bit lately because the print has been touring again,
and it's very much like The Witch.
But Black Sunday is, because it's. Watching it, the thing about Kurosawa, not Kurosawa, he's kind of like a Kurosawa, is actually in my notes, is that Bava he's just such a good filmmaker that you forget he's working in the horror genre at times, because between that and, Blood and Black Lights, and there's another one where I'm just like, wow, the craft of this director is like, he is like, Italy is Kurosawa, and so I feel like and we're lucky he made his films in the horror genre, so we had these great horror films. But I get the feeling if he didn't make films in the horror genre, his name would be more like Fellini and more like these kind of people considered great directors of world cinema, because he's just that good. Actually, the one I'm really thinking about is his first, the first Giallo, The Eye / The Girl Who Knew Too Much. Go and watch that. It's like a perfectly crafted and lighting, black and white lighting. It's all perfect.
Yeah,
and that's how I felt about this. But this film. Every time Barbara Steele's, was giving me chills even thinking about her presence in this movie. And we mentioned a little bit, so I don't want to go over that. But I, if you're in LA, do whatever you can to go see that on the big screen, especially if you haven't seen it, because some of the, parts of it feel a little bit just like Hammer. It definitely feels very connected to the Hammer aesthetic and the people in cravats and doctors and, oh my gosh, this is happening to you, and very British. But when Barbara Steele's on screen and the opening witch scene, which is the one that gets all the press, is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I mean, when they come up to her with that mask and a giant hammer, you're like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, really, if you get a chance to see it that way. But the Kino Blue's gorgeous and really cool seeing that movie again.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Becca, what else you got?
The last one that I have that I will discuss is I did a couple of pieces on Blumhouse.com on Mondo films, and I did one about the history, and then I went back and looked at 10 Mondo films that I really enjoyed throughout history, and then I did one that was just on Mondo Kane. Or Kane, I don't even know how you say it.
You just be honest. It's
Mondo Kane.
You can call me Mondo from now on. Maybe this is finally have a real nickname, Mondo.
But it's the one that kind of kicked off all of them. And that one was just a couple of Italian filmmakers who had got tired of seeing all these National Geographic films, which were incredibly PG at the time. Where they tour the world and talk about how beautiful this finch is and this tribe, but
which Cannibal Holocaust is kind of riffing on.
Exactly,
it's about people making something like that.
These documentaries, and so what they did in the original Mondo film was combine footage, all of this really questionable footage from all over the place. Like here's cannibals, here's people eating puppies, here's
like
people
Faces of Death, that kind of thing.
Faces of Death kind of morphed out of this. And so I watched this original one, and I actually went back and watched some of the Faces of Death as well for the project, and I cannot believe
Lucky you.
I know. I cannot. When I was a kid watching these, and granted, I was like in middle school, and the neighbor boy was coming over with these like, this is real, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is all real. And now I was watching like part 4, and I'm like, there's a giant fucking leech in it, like it's like the size of her arm, and I was convinced it was real when I was a kid. So yeah, but it made me kind of remember the time period when I was really amused by Mondo films. There was definitely a point where I was like, yeah, it's like totally transversive and they're forcing you to see things you don't want to look at. But then I realized that when it's kind of presented in this just very kind of vignette, like here's this, they get boring after a while.
Yeah, but you want to know why? And this is the same with passing tapes around and all the stuff we loved as kids. It's because we did not have access to all the information we have now. So we're back in a day where you watch that and go, whoa, I haven't seen that part of the world. Now we click 2 buttons and you see anything you want on YouTube. And
I mentioned this in the articles that I did. The internet is a Mondo film now.
When people say going down the rabbit hole of the internet, they are talking about the Mondo hole.
Yeah. And I mean, and whereas when I was watching some of this stuff during my formidable years, being like, oh my God, I'm watching like real life executions, or this guy just almost got hit by a car, but not quite, or look, there's this alligator attacking somebody. I now watch it and I'm like, eh. And it's because, somebody just sent me a video of an alligator attacking somebody, or look at this weird goat.
It's a totally different world of information. It's so weird.
So, yeah, but it kind of made me realize how the internet has changed everything, and what used to be so transversive and almost forbidden and foreign and exotic to me is now just like, I've seen it.
Yeah, now you don't want to see. Like, somebody sends you a beheading. It's like the last thing on earth
no,
I want to watch.
I never would click on
And as a kid, I wouldn't
have
wanted to either, but I would have been like at least thinking about it all the time. Like, if somebody gave me a tape of that, I wouldn't have probably watched it. I was the kind of person who didn't necessarily need to see the real thing, but I would have been thinking about it. Now I wouldn't. If somebody sent me that, I'd be like, okay.
Oh God, no! I would
just
never
the world now.
click on anything like that now. Like, it would really affect me. But even like, I watched one, Great White Death, which is supposed to be like real life shark footage, and even that, I was just kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and I dig my shark movies. So yeah, it was weird how my perspective on Mondo films changed. Not necessarily because of my age, I don't think, but just because of how technology changed and what's available to us now.
Mondo is Vice.
You're right.
When you really think about what the Vice news show is, it's all about going to foreign territories, places that no one else is doing the story, and getting really dangerous situations. They're the real version.
But
I mean, it's contrived
Vice,
a bit, but
Vice at least gives some type of like a framework
news. Yeah,
for
it's
it.
more. It's an elevated version, but I bet it comes from that. I bet
does.
it all kind of stems.
It definitely
from
still stems out of it, because you still watch it and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that this horrible thing is existing in this strange place that's like millions of light years away from me, that I don't even have to get that close to." It's just watching it on a screen. So it still does have that element to it. Of the
What's
Mondo
the Vice
films.
connection to horror films? A.J. Bowen.
Sacrament?
Yeah, A.J. Bowen playing Shane Smith. Yeah.
We're having a lot of connections.
Vice
to the
has
Sacrament.
also produced that film.
Oh yeah, they did.
So it's an
produce
actual
that
Vice film that he's actually playing the guy.
Yeah,
basically.
they gave their
used their
permission
name.
for it.
Which is kind of awesome that he's playing that character.
Yeah,
but, it's pretty
Which,
good.
if you guys haven't seen the documentary Now version of Vice, it's quite funny.
Oh, I hear that. Yeah, I gotta check that out
It's
still.
documentary
Oh, no,
Now.
I haven't yet. I
I
haven't
love.
Yeah, I've
that
got to
show.
watch all those. They look
You
great.
at least, and I talked about this
I know
on
them all,
the old
yeah.
show, but you at least need to watch the Grey Gardens one, because it turns into a horror film, and it may be the best mockumentary horror film I've ever seen.
It doesn't
It's
surprise me,
wonderful.
because that is a kind of a horror film. Living with your mother and
they take it
old
exactly where you think it would go, that it didn't go. Like, to the they're just fucking nuts point, and she is really in love with the filmmaker, and it really goes there
fun.
without. Yeah, it's great.
Any other horror movies? I got some TV otherwise.
No, let's go through TV really quick and. Yeah,
I'll do some
What
quick
do you
ones. There's a new show. It all got dumped. Not dumped. This is the new model. You put them all out at once. Sorry. On not Showtime or Stars. I think it's Showtime, called The Girlfriend Experience. And
Amy Seimetz.
Yeah, Amy Seimetz, who's the actress from many things, but including Your Next.
And The Sacrament.
Yeah, The Sacrament. And she directed sorry, my notes running. She directed a film. I really liked her first film, and the name just totally escaped me. Sun. It'll come back to me. And she's a really interesting filmmaker in her own right. And this film, she is one of two main creative forces on, but the other one is the one that I then got really excited about, which is, his name's Lodge Kerrigan, and he, in American independent film, was kind of like kind of hitting it really big around the same time as Tarantino. He had a film called Clean Shave, and these are like starring Peter Green, who's one of the rapists in Pulp Fiction at the end.
Yeah.
And it is his films are so focused and hard-hitting, and I see a lot of his aesthetic in the show. And I know Amy they both wrote all the episodes together. This is actually one of my favorite shows of the year. It's not really horror, but it is pretty intense. It's way better than Soderbergh's movie. And it is a perfect binge show. It feels like it was meant to be watched in one sitting. It's about a kind of law girl who's studying law who just falls into becoming a kind of high-end escort, somebody who kind of is more like your girlfriend, and rich people don't see her that often, but you're having a full experience, the full girlfriend experience. And just it's kind of a character descent kind of show. I thought because there was enough people who were involved in horror, I thought it was interesting to mention. Coolest thing, though, the score at the end is Shane Carruth, who did Primer and Upstream Color, directed those two films, and he is engaged to Amy Simons in real life, and he appears in one of the episodes. So people who I know there's a lot of fans of those science fiction, his world, he's becoming very much like the young Kubrickian filmmaker. So that was a really cool show if you're into the more, arty stuff. The one I'm most excited about is the return of Penny Dreadful, which is becoming maybe my favorite horror show of all. The second season was astounding. Like, I didn't think it could get better. First episode of number 3, one guy knocks on Frankenstein's door. He goes, "Hello." He goes, "Oh, good to see you, Dr. Hyde," or Dr. Jekyll. And you're just like, "Ooh, Dr. Jekyll." And then the first episode, not really a spoiler because it's first episode, and then the end of the first episode, something dark's coming, and somebody goes, "What is it?" And he goes, "Dracula." And I'm like, oh, this season's going to have Dracula in it. And I was like so in hunting Eva Green, who is just the best screen presence ever. I mean, she next to a Johnny from Possession, boom, suck it. I honestly think she might be my favorite screen presence since then, because she just hits all the buttons.
Wow.
Also, and I love the show. And then the other storyline of it is all taking place in New Mexico. They have never been outside of Victorian England, but the wolf character, who I won't reveal, is chasing a storyline that's happening in New Mexico, and the scale of this is big. So this show doesn't look like it's getting scaled down for cancellation. It feels like they're getting bigger, and I just think this is a great show that not enough horror people have been talking about it. It kind of shocks me. At first season, I think you have to get through the first 4 or 5 to really kind of get into these new versions, like Hannibal, of the characters. But second season's it was just perfect.
Wow,
so,
I'm glad to hear you say. I dropped out on the 4th episode.
Yeah,
and that's as far as I made. And I was like, it's just not really keeping me.
There's a seance episode, and I've never met anyone who wasn't hooked after it. Like, because Eva Green just gives that performance, you're like, holy shit! Like, what did she just do on screen? Where she's kind of a possession thing, and it's really good. And one quick shout out to my good friend Mark Kelly, one of my best friends that I made in LA when I first got here. He has been the main bad guy. I couldn't talk about this. He's been the main bad guy in the last 2 episodes, Fear the Walking Dead. And I will say the first 4 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead this season, I feel like we're even slower than the first season. Ugh. And when he entered, it was really fun for me, obviously, because you're watching someone you know. But just in the second one he was in, and then last night's episode where
earlier this week
he wasn't in, or earlier this week, whenever you're listening, Sunday, it was easily the best that show's ever. It was really interesting. He wasn't in this one. It's all down in Mexico, and I was like, oh, I could watch a Walking Dead show shot in Mexico, and it was really dark. I mean, the things that were happening in this episode, I was like, God, the character stuff I still think isn't there. We don't really care about anyone yet, and that's the problem with this world compared to the other Walking Dead, where you do care when somebody dies. This it's like anyone could die and you wouldn't care. There's no real, even though they're trying to establish this family, it's just not there yet in the writing, but I'm invested to try to see it through, and I want it to be cool. But it was super cool to see. That's the first time I think anyone I've known has been in that world. So it was just really cool to see that. And the best thing of all, and you'll definitely know what this means, his opening scene, he's cooking a steak. Mark, his whole personality is barbecuing.
Yeah, he's quite the good
steak.
chef.
And he's like from Oregon, and in this he looks like a guy from Oregon, and his opening scene is cooking a steak, and I'm just going, oh my God.
And he told me that they actually had him cook like an actual
a real steak
on set.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's just Mark cooking. So it's hard to be scared of him, but kind of cool. So if you're on the Twitter, I say hashtag we want more Connor to Fear the Walking Dead, and we'll see if we can get him on there more. It'd be kind of fun.
Wow.
But yeah, so some good horror TV, I gotta say. And also, I was watching Salem Season 2, and that's really still fun. There's, horror TV, man. There's some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Bates Motel next week because the finale is this week.
Oh, cool.
But I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Save it for that.
So I want to talk when this season is wrapped because I think this was their best season yet. So
Cool.
Nice.
All right, so we got the guys from Scream Factory on this episode. Stay tuned for them. But first, Ryan Turk's going to chime in with his pick of the week. So stand by. Okay, so welcome back to the special segment of Shockwaves. Every week we're going to check in with the head of development here at Blumhouse, Mr. Ryan Turek.
Hello.
So he is here with his pick of the week.
Yeah.
What do you got for us this time?
So I'm going to go way back.
Way back.
Way back to 1996.
What happened in 96?
Which to you and I seems like yesterday. To everybody else.
Until we meet people that were born in 96.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, God.
Well, we just celebrated the 20th anniversary of The Craft.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So my recollection of The Craft is I think I was a sophomore in film school in New York City. And I was walking from class to class. And this actually goes hand in hand with a total name drop, which is also really funny. But I was like walking, what's the park down by 14th Street? Where there used to be that Barnes & Noble there, and it was like 14th Street. There's a giant park.
Not Washington Square.
No, but there was it's where the farmer's market is and stuff like that. It's where Forbidden Planet. It's like a block away from Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Anyways, I had just got back from Forbidden Planet, and I bought the new Fangoria, which had The Craft on the cover, and I was like, what is this? What is this? These girls and this witchery and all this. And then, strangely enough, Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow went walking by as I was reading it. And I was like, oh, look at that. This is, folks.
Were they going to see The Craft?
Folks, this was back in the day when they used to date. Anyways, that's my name drop. But The Craft, it held my interest back in the day, but I didn't see it theatrically.
Yeah.
I waited until it came out on DVD or whatever to finally see it. VHS, I should say.
Yeah.
And, DVD. It was on DVD at the time. It was like one of the early DVDs, I think.
Yeah,
by
then, yeah.
But anyways, I saw it. I rewatched it recently. I kind of christened my new place with The Craft. And the movie strikingly holds up really, really well.
I haven't seen it in 20 years since it came out.
It holds up really well because it plays to the wish fulfillment of what if Robin Tunney is like the fourth part of these girls, this coven, and together they're stronger than ever, and there's like a certain wish fulfillment of what can we do with these powers? We could pick on the bully, Neve Campbell, she can get rid of her scars, and it has a lot of fun with that. There's a lot of runway with that, and then they all become real jerks to one another, and that's always been my problem with the movie is that. You kind of don't want them to break up. You don't want them to turn on one another because you love their rapport so much. But who knows? Maybe that's what Lee Janiak will fix with the remake. But
remake sequel.
Apparently. Dude, let me tell you how curious I am about the sequel.
Can you tell us anything? Do you know?
I don't know anything, but that was
insider knowledge.
I know that there was a time when I was in a room talking about The Craft, and I was like, "Oh, it should just be a sequel." But I have no idea. But the original, going back to the original film, it just holds up really well, and the soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
It looks good. The girls are great. Fairuza Balk is just a fantastic baddie.
Yeah. She's so synonymous with that movie.
Oh yeah,
as is that Love Spit Love version of Fast As Now.
Oh, totally. But it evokes an era that as we go on in the years, I kind of miss,
Yeah.
And it was pre-Scream, because Scream came out in December.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of a pre-Scream teen thing,
Isn't it fun to revisit, like we were there when these 90s movies are coming out and kind of like, oh, man, I don't know about this version of horror, where it's going.
Yeah.
But, it's an aesthetic now. I go back and watch, I just watched Disturbing Behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And,
which
they
is another
all
one of my favorites,
feel kind of like, it's a weird, unique part of horror, that, 90s cycle.
Yeah, well, I've been going on this weird 90s kick now, now that I've got everything all set up. I rewatched The Arrival. with Charlie Sheen.
Oh yeah.
I rewatched, and maybe it just might be because that Independence Day vibe is coming back. But I've been rewatching a lot of '90s stuff.
Yeah,
and just kind of going, oh, look at that, it's '90s. Oh, The Mummy. I was watching the Brendan Fraser Mummy yesterday. I was showing it to my stepdaughter.
Yeah,
and she was totally into it.
Really?
She loved it. I mean, the movie. Look,
it's very Indiana Jones more than it is the original Universal.
Yeah. No, but it's a lot of fun. Not horror. Remember, the horror trivia is not horror.
It's not horror.
Not horror. Anyway, so The Craft. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's an interesting interesting snapshot of a time in that decade when the genre didn't know what the hell it wanted to do. You know, it came out a year after In the Mouth of Madness and a couple other like supernatural thrillers, and then somewhere along the way, someone just flicked the switch and was like teen horror, and then off they went. The Craft is a really good piece of film. It's fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Ryan's pick of the week is The Craft.
Yeah.
Hang tight. We got some amazing guests coming up in a few minutes. Okay, and welcome back. We're very excited because these guys were on our previous show several times, and those episodes always turned out to be a lot of fun and well liked by our listeners. But for this new show, we are honored that they are our first guests. Welcome to the show, Jeff Nelson and Cliff McMillan from Scream Factory.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Wow.
We are really honored to be your first guest. That's crazy.
I know.
We couldn't pick anybody else. We had to have you guys back.
It's beautiful the way it worked out. And I mean, this is perfect because you guys are approaching the 4-year anniversary of Scream Factory.
That's a lot of scares, a lot of drama.
We were shocked because when we were doing our research today, we were like trading emails back and forth, and like we were thinking, they've got a lot of titles out.
I thought it was about like 52 titles because I feel like I have all the ones, and then I got the printout and
we have a list right
it's
here.
going to be like 200 and something. 200 plus.
Yeah, like when we pulled it up, and they're all on Wikipedia under you guys, and it's like 250 some titles, and you're still cranking them out.
Yeah,
I don't know how we do it. Yeah. Cliff and I often shake our heads and just we're grateful, but I mean, we really are in a sense, a factory. I mean, we pump them out, we churn them out, we try to make them as best as we can with all the parameters and boundaries. I mean, all the behind the scenes stuff that not everybody gets to see, but we do, and we're often, relieved when a movie like, oh, here it is, it's the final product, and
Yeah, I mean, when you get those, I guess, what are they called? Test pressings or test printings of, like what you usually post pictures via the social media, like, look, they're here. And you guys seem just as excited as us to be like, oh, I can't wait to get my copy of that.
Or sometimes it's just a little marketing spin. It's like, here it is. Okay, we can move on. But no, we are. I mean, Cliff and I were talking the other day is that, with all of our titles, not all of them are bestsellers. And, we've preserved a lot of titles. We've rescued, some things like, You'll Like My Mother.
And, just to fill people in that may be hearing you for the first time on the show, in honor of the 4th anniversary, let's talk about the origins of Scream Factory and how this all came about, because you must not have imagined. Did you imagine that it would have sustained this long, or?
What do you think, Cliff? No.
Well, I think it always depends on, the selection of movies that you can get. And, as everybody knows, there's some studios that just won't sub-license films. And, so sometimes you'll do a package and you'll get all the titles done, ready, and you go, oh boy, we don't have any more titles. And so, it's like, it's surprising sometimes the amount of titles that we are able to get, and, it sustains us and keeps us going,
Right.
I mean, when we started the line, Cliff and I worked on the Roger Corman cult classics, which was, back in the day. And when that line was coming to an end, Cliff and I discussed and we saw that we had our first 2 titles on the Scream line, Halloween 2 and 3. And we said, well, we also have Terror Train, and we also have Deadly Blessing in the Island and Death Valley. And I think it was They Live in Phantasm 2. It's like, well, let's group them together, put them into a brand, and let's see what else we can do. Cliff had already had relationships with MGM. He was talking about getting some stuff from there, and from that deal is where we got things like The Fog and The Howling and Life Force, some of our biggest sellers. But yeah, every year, we go into the next year and we're like, all right, well, what can we get from this licensor, or this independent, or this stuff? And it becomes a little bit more challenging as the years go on, and there were independents doing what we're doing when we first came on the scene. There seems to be more independents doing more that we're doing since we came on the scene, and that's had some challenges too, because those people are going basically after the same audience we are.
But you guys set a really good precedent, and you had a great business model. So I think that's kind of what they're chasing there.
Yeah.
Well, flattery. What is that? The imitation is the finest form of flattery.
Yeah.
But it still can take a little piece of the profit pie, so to speak.
Right.
But we Cliff and I have learned a lot in this 4 years of things that we could improve upon. We've listened to fans. We've listened to ourselves, our gut reactions. We've learned, especially through social media, we cannot please everybody. So we can only do the best that we can, try to explain to people what's, realistic and what we can do. But here we are 4 years later, and, people for the majority are really still pumped, excited, and happy with what we're doing. And that pleases us a lot. Well,
I think what's fascinating is you guys really did, were to give credit where credit is due, you guys really paved the way for this, because a lot of the big studios were not releasing these movies on Blu-ray, and it felt like something had to give. Somebody had to, it's kind of like the indie bands and the indie labels were like, well, let's license those big titles and put them out, because the amount they'd sell to a big studio might not mean much, but to you guys it would. And I draw the parallel, and I know you've said this before, to right now, the vinyl soundtrack thing has exploded, and I credit that to Death Waltz, really. I mean, they were doing a lot of this John Carpenter stuff. You guys are doing a lot of John Carpenter stuff on Blu-ray.
Yep.
And even though there's a lot of little labels in the record side and as well as, the Blu-ray side, I think you guys were the ones that kind of kicked it off, to be fair and honest.
I mean, we can't
being
take
very humble.
Thank you. We can't take sole credit. There are, like I said earlier, there's, other independents that were, sort of running parallel to us. I guess that would probably be a good way of putting it. And we have just been really fortunate that our, Cliff and I report to others. We are not our own bosses, so we do report to others that, that have believed in the brand and have definitely put forth the money to the advances to sub-license. A lot of people don't realize that we do not flat out own these films. We can't just do everything and anything with them.
You guys, do you get theatrical rights with them, or is it just
Nope.
like the plain Blu-ray?
No.
Just physical media.
Very, very few. Like some of our newer releases, like Bite or Bloodsucking Bastards or something like that. The contemporary stuff will get theatrical releases, but things like The Fog or The Sentinel, no, they're only for physical rights. They're not even for digital rights. And
It's always North American? Because I know you guys aren't really an international brand. Like, you're not sending your
No.
films to England.
And again, we have, and I say this very respectfully, we have a lot of fans overseas that are very frustrated sometimes as to why we don't make our titles region free. And it's not because we don't want to, it's because Shout Factory isn't set up as a business.
We're a North American company.
And we're a North America company, and there are expenses and legal issues and a whole lot of logistics that go into offering something like, The Fog, as a region free. So we just ask for some understanding on that. We do know that, there's a percentage of people that get them. They still manage to get them.
If we did titles region free, we wouldn't get the deals that we get.
Right.
So the studios wouldn't allow us to do any other titles.
Yeah, me and Rob were talking about that yesterday.
Well, is it because technically it'd probably be possible to get worldwide rights for a title, but the price that a studio would want probably doesn't make sense with, because
and different people own different movies in different territories. So
right.
But how is that
it's
being
not even the same rights holder in the UK as it is here?
But how is that being broken down by region-free players? Is that kind of like kind of ruining that system of the region-coded?
He's trying to talk about how is Arrow able
is
to put out
Arrow
some
doing
in the
it?
UK
We'll ask
and
that
now in
one.
the UK?
No, I mean, I'm
How does Arrow do
genuinely
it?
curious if it works out having it region in that sense.
Arrow is getting both UK and US rights, so that's why they're able to do that. Yeah.
Right.
But that's also probably why their titles are kind of a little
Well, they're smaller
random.
films
Yeah.
because it's easier to get all rights to those kind of movies. It's we can on The Fog because MGM owns it here and Studio Canal owns it overseas. So we'd have to go to 2 licensors to make a deal, and it just would be too much money
Well,
and a lot of work.
That's another thing that sometimes we, always feel like we need to communicate is that, we here in this room here and a lot of people listening, we're like, wow, The Fog must sell, so much. And it does, but within a reason. There's a ceiling now for these type of films. We are in a collector's market. We are not in the boom of the DVD days from 2004 where things were just, it was the times were different. People's spending habits are different. So we always have to be mindful of that ceiling when we're doing our budgets, we're doing our extras or film transfers or artworks, what we do and decide to do as a collector's edition or not. There's a whole lot of parameters that we have to keep in. So we are, and to some degree, we're doing a good job because we've been doing this for 4 years. So we've been, by minding the store, we've been able to continue, and hope that makes some sense.
And it's a business.
Totally makes
I mean,
sense.
we can't lose money and continue to go on. So, you have to be mindful of that when you're looking at the titles that you have and how much you can spend on each one.
So I guess that there's kind of I'd say like a seesaw effect where you pick some titles because you know that they would make bank, and then other ones that probably won't do as well but are fan favorites.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we do what we call sort of experiments a lot. I think we have tried different titles to see if they work. We've tried some TV movies. We've tried some obscure movies. We've tried some stuff, and some of those things will work. Cliff, a great example is Cliff acquiring Dark Angel, or AKA I Come in Peace.
Which we loved.
Okay. So that is sold really well for us.
Way to go, Cliff.
And again,
Good job.
no, I mean, it's a title that is like, wow, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it has done really well for us. Ninja 3, The Domination, is another one where, we had an initial strategy on it. It was kind of like, wasn't an A title like The Fog or The Howling or anything like that, and yet it has done really well for us. But the obscure ones, we do set sort of what's called a unit goal of what we hope to sell. And when it doesn't get there, sometimes it does affect looking at other releases down the road that may be similar to it in tone or cast or, because we, again, as I said earlier, Cliff and I are our own bosses and we have to report to other people. And if those numbers aren't, met on a consistent, we can't just continue same path. But I will say this, we have gotten away with a little bit of murder on some of those obscure titles that we're like, okay, well, let's just, let's get this out here. And
What's the biggest overperformer? One that just totally shocked you?
Besides
from
I Come in Peace,
but-
like what just completely blew your
Yeah,
mind?
because I think every time, like, They Live was a big one from the beginning, but now,
we would know that.
over the
Yeah.
course of the last few years.
we saw that you guys got questions going into
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And someone
yeah.
asked, what are your biggest sellers and what are sort of your not biggest sellers? And I can tell you that the Babadook is our by far best-selling title. Like, the amount of units that sold on the Babadook would be like, 4 or 5 John Carpenter titles to put it in sort of a
Wow,
perspective.
that really makes
That's a
me
great
feel
sign for
good. That
films.
it reaffirms
it
the market.
It really is. But that's not to knock John Carpenter films
no.
because They Live, The Fog, Prince of Darkness, Halloween 2 and 3, even though he didn't direct those. All of those are in our top 20 very easily.
And you see people complaining, "Oh, why are you doing more, new films?" And they sell, they really do.
Yeah.
Some don't, but
You know,
most of them do.
It's funny because we've had titles like Cockneys versus Zombies, or we've
really
had
amusing movie.
Yeah, it's fun.
We've had some other IFC titles that are contemporary, and we get that there's a resistance to some of that, but people also have to understand too that when we get those titles into mass retail like Walmart or Best Buy, and it turns and it sells, there is an appetite for it. They may not be the horror fan like us here because we're retro, inclined.
Yeah.
But there is an audience for it. It's a fresh audience, and some of that stuff ends up being our biggest sellers. I'm trying to think of some other titles. Town That Dreaded Sundown was a huge hit for us.
Cool.
But we kind of figured it might do well.
We thought it would do well, but sometimes I look at the numbers. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect it to do that well. We've seen some titles over the years go, wow, we ended up at this many units for Terror Train, or this many units for The Burning.
Because they started out slow.
Yeah.
And then they just built.
Yeah.
Are there ever
Prison.
ones where you don't know, like you just like one day suddenly there's a bunch of orders and you're like, oh, did somebody just die in the news, or some event has caused a trigger?
Suddenly everyone is into Prison Break.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think of. Sadly,
we usually know when people pass.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, sadly, we did see a surge of, Swamp Thing and Deadly Blessing when Mr. Craven, passed away and
Or
stuff like that.
They Live when Roddy Piper
Yeah,
passed
They
away.
Live and
man.
Roddy Piper.
And I bet you that title's going to surge when Donald Trump's president.
So please don't
Last
scare
year.
us
Everyone's
like
gonna
this.
want- it's to scare people, Jeff. It's to scare them.
I
that back.
got to tell you that They Live consistently sells like it is an evergreen
it's so fun.
title,
Yeah, it's such a fun movie.
and it has gotten a bump of orders recently, and I have to say I do think
it's
that
political.
there's political stuff. I know that
I think it is.
John Carpenter and Sandy King Carpenter
Posted.
just had a post of They Live and Donald Trump that got met with a lot of flack and a lot of support.
Yeah.
But I was impressed that they, boldly put that out.
threw it out there. Yeah,
and
that's
I was
cool.
like, well, that's what the movie was kind of sort of saying back
Fight
then.
the power. By They Live.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Before we delve into questions, maybe you can clarify, because the Babadook you said was one of your best sellers, but this is an IFC Midnight title, and you guys put out a lot of the IFC Midnight stuff, and also Chiller films,
And you did-
obviously you just made your first original film, Fender Bender, by Mark Pavia.
I mean, I even saw Shark and Saw Women's Massacre came through you guys. Like, I got that one in the mail, and I was like, oh, Wynorski, Scream Factory? Yeah.
What do you
Well,
mean by original film? Like, you guys actually produced
They
in-house?
produce, yes.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you could explain kind of the relationships between these different companies. Like,
Yeah.
why do you have the physical media rights for IFC Midnight and Chiller, or how does that all work between those companies and Scream Factory?
They're different. I don't know if you want Cliff to talk about the Chiller part and,
Well, IFC we signed like 2015, was that?
2015.
Yeah.
Yes. God.
They came to us through another project that we were trying to do, and
It's 2014. Whenever the Babadook. Yeah. God.
And are you solely like the Blu-ray for them, or can they go to you and Dark
just
Sky? and other
IFC.
companies?
We have IFC Midnight. We don't
Exclusive?
have.
And
That's great.
And by the way, we got the IFC line and the Babadook largely because they were impressed with our brand, and Cliff, talked to the person over there who knew of our brand and kind of worked out sort of a deal. And when we were celebrating at Shout Factory at Babadook's success, I mentioned to our president, I was like, yep, all those titles like The Nest that didn't sell, they're paying off now. And that is the way to sort of change the perspective, because the kind of sales we got in the Babadook, in a sense, sort of made up for, those smaller titles that, just didn't, I like to call them the land of misfit toys sometimes, but yeah, so that's how we got the IFC deal. But
I'm trying to think of how we got into the
Chiller.
deal with Chiller. I can't remember, but there was just the first movie was Remains, I believe.
you
And then
brought
you did-
that in,
Yeah, I
though,
brought
right?
that in.
Okay.
You guys
And-
did Below. I remember that one was pretty early on.
Beneath?
Beneath.
The Larry Pheasant
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Remains was the first one, and then we worked together very well, even though they're a Universal owned company. Then when The Boy came out when it started playing festivals, I contacted them and I said, hey, we'd really like to release that. And so we just continue to work with those guys.
Yeah, some of the chiller titles, again, have sold really well. Animal, Beneath did okay. There was a movie they produced, it went on Sci-Fi called Dark Hall. There was one called Dead Shadows. Dead Shadows did really well. No, not
that
Dead
wasn't there.
Dead Souls. I'm sorry,
Dead Souls.
Was
Bill
Monkey's
Moseley?
Paw one of them?
Monkey's Paw was
I
one
liked
of them.
that one.
Yeah.
But Fender Bender, which is going to be airing on Chiller Network on, I think it's June 3rd. Yes, this is our first original from like script stage all the way up to cast and producing type of original film. And it's a total slasher film, a total throwback to all of that, Prom Night, Friday the 13th, Terror Train stuff where a mass killer is going around. And the premise is really awesome. It's like, we've all gotten into fender bender accidents, and what would happen if somebody hit you and you exchanged all your information and they turned out to be a serial killer,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun
Super
premise. Cool. And the movie's nice and lean and mean, and it's fun. There's a great score, very Carpenter-esque kind of retro throwback. I think if you're a fan of slasher films, it's kind of a no-brainer. And,
what was the thinking of getting into that territory, into being on the other end of it?
Well, I
Passion
mean,
for filmmaking,
we do so many deals that are just for physical media. To sustain a company, you need to own content as well. So that's what brought about us looking into creating our own content. So
is it something you could look to continue? Like, is that
Are
something
you getting some more?
That's what we hope to do. I mean, we're gauging the success of this, and we're trying to set it up in a way where everything's sort of kind of experimental, and this is definitely an experiment for us, but we're pretty pleased with the results, and you kind of see what works. I mean, lots of learning on it. So yes, fingers crossed. But we really hope the fans will tune in, check this one out, because the founders of the company were looking to do new movies, and they could have gone to any type of genre, and they could have gone to everything. But because Scream Factory was doing well, and we had such a galvanized, excited base, they went to us first, and we explored a lot of, lots and lots and lots of some good ideas, some bad ideas, some interesting ventures, some different stuff, and we landed on Fender Bender. Pretty proud to get it.
I bet if you had an open call, you would have a ridiculous amount of submissions.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Like you guys, because of the level of respect you garner, though,
There's actually a convention going on in LA in a couple of weeks called PitchCon.
Oh, boy.
Where all you do is go with your pitches and like tell other people your pitches. And I was like, that sounds like a headache.
nightmare to me.
But yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm really intrigued by Bite, the one that you guys have coming up. I keep seeing press for that, and it looks awesome.
Yay, good. That means we're doing our job.
Yeah.
I'll just talk about that really quickly, because we were really pleased with Bite. The film, as you guys know, it made a big splash at Toronto Film Fest of people fainting and throwing up. Now, whether that's a stunt or whether that's a whatever, it got a lot of people's attention in the horror community very quickly. So when we got it, I was like, oh God, we got this really gross movie and whatever. And I popped it in and I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is good. This is like a legit, like, practical effects, like well acted, very Cronenberg, very moody. And I told, the acquisitions people, I was like, I think we got a winner here. So we've been marketing the hell out of it, doing a lot of press for it. We opened it up in about 7 or 8 screens. And I think I would love to see us get more films like this, because it took itself seriously. It wasn't campy, or it wasn't like, this is, no offense to a Gravy or a Bloodsucking Bastards or the Editor, stuff that had winks to the camera and stuff like that. This was a straightforward horror film. And the great thing about it is that a lot of the horror press has been really behind it and supportive of it, and they gave it great reviews. And, knock on wood, it'll come out Blu-ray and DVD later on this summer, that it'll do well, because I would love for our acquisitions team to continue to get this kind of a quality type of horror film.
Well, now you have to give a quick synopsis because I'm totally intrigued. As
Yeah,
soon as you
I'm-
said like visceral, gory, I'm there.
Wow,
What
it's
is
I mean,
this?
it's very simple. A group of girls go to Costa Rica on vacation. One of the girls get bitten by a bug. She comes home. She slowly starts to turn into that bug.
Nice.
And
Freaking
so
crap,
it's
that sounds awesome.
very, very, very The Fly. Very, very, but it's like an homage. It's like a respected letter to a Cronenberg type of film, and it was filmed in Canada, so that puts the
Like
Cronenberg
Canadian feel.
factor in there more. But very gooey, very sticky. It's a type of movie that watching during lunch, it's up to, you might not want to do that.
It's got bugs. I'm there.
But it's definitely a gooey, fun movie. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of all the just disgusting,
Gooey.
sticky.
Alrighty. Well, why don't we dive into it? We have a lot of people that chimed in when they found out you were going to come on. So let's dive into some of these questions.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, Kyle Forson wants to know, if you had the chance to redo a previous release with a little more time, money, or luck, what would it be?
Oh, Cliff, you take that first.
Let's
I gotta
go
think about that
Tell us
one.
the regrets. And time is a big factor.
Totally,
because
totally.
You are aiming to hit a release date.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, there are some titles that, now I think I would have, it's a lot cheaper now to do 2K scans and 4K scans. So, to go back and maybe do something like They Live or The Howling or, we did a new Transfer of the Fog, so that wouldn't be one. But
Just in 4 years, the cost difference on a 2K scan, is that
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I don't think it would be mostly about extra features. I think it would come down to which ones I'd like to retransfer. Halloween 2, Halloween 3.
That's a really good question. We often get the question of how do you decide what are collector's editions, and our statement has always been, well, how popular is the title to a fan base? Is it pretty rabid? Is it mega popular? That's usually number one. Number two is what are the amount of extras we can do with it, and we usually go from there. But we have had times where collector's editions that were planned fell short of what we hoped that they would be. And then we've had non-collector's editions excel our expectations. And then it's like, damn, this should have been a collector's edition. I would say some great examples would be Death Becomes Her. Great
God, I
example.
love that
Knew you were
movie.
going there.
Listen, well, we had to.
it's true.
We
I mean-
loved Death Becomes Her. And when we acquired it, we announced it at Comic-Con, and we were very excited about it. And it was not planned as a collector's edition. But as it started rolling out, we started to get some participation, mainly from Robert Zemeckis. And we're like, wow, okay, well, this opens up the door. Let's push it to be a collector's edition, because we were pretty certain that some other key cast would come to the table. We learned we couldn't do the illustrated art because of the likenesses of you're dealing with Streep, Hahn, and Willis. It's just, you can't really legally go down that road.
Oh,
And
what? You can't even create art of Meryl Streep, even though she's in the movie?
we probably
She has to approve it.
right. We probably could have, but to go through all of the approvals and art and likenesses and everything like that, I mean, you could be potentially delaying that release for some time. I mean, these actors are busy and they're doing their stuff, but some of this key cast that we went for, they didn't end up coming through, not for lack of trying. And so it's still a collector's edition. We have a, widescreen. We got some good extras on it and everything, but it's not as rich as we had wanted it to be. Squirm was another example of that. I think there's a few other titles that are collectors, but then we've had titles like, notably, Witchboard, which had tons. And if we could have done illustrated art on that, I probably would have liked to have done it. The Sentinel ended up having 3 commentaries, and a lot of people really loved that film. Had we known we were going to get 3 commentaries and a new transfer, yeah, we would have done some new art on that, made it a collector's edition.
Yep.
And how big a difference does the collector's edition help to the sales for you guys?
Well, it all depends on the title. We made Garbage Pail Kids a collector's edition.
I love that you did that.
We did, and it didn't work sell as much as we thought it would. We were surprised, very surprised by it.
You know what my critique of that is, and I'm not trying to put you guys down because I love what you do. I saw the artwork too, and I was like, it should have been one of the artists from Garbage Pail Kids doing
gotten Joe Simcoe as
like
the-
a card.
That's a little pricey, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, the whole top. We tried to be involved with tops, and
Right.
it didn't quite work
Oh,
out.
I
as
didn't even
well.
think of that.
We were let's just say this: we were lucky to have the illustrated art go out as it did.
You know, last show we talked about our awkward celebrity meetings.
Yeah.
So we were at a convention in Long Island, and Sean Astin was there, and Mackenzie Astin apparently just like tagged along with his brother. And I saw him there that day, and the next day I went home and got my Garbage Pail Kids VHS tape because it hadn't come out on anything cool yet. And I took it back the next day, and I stood in line for Sean Astin just so I could get Mackenzie to sign it. And he was shocked as shit. He was like, "Seriously, you came just to see me and brought this?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course
quite a
I
movie.
did. It's Garbage Pail Kids."
Awesome.
Quite
Yeah,
a
I mean, we thought it would. I mean, we thought, God, with the collectible cards and everything like that, we thought the numbers would really be there. I mean, there's some
And
still
it
great
sold
action.
well on DVD. So
Yeah.
you just never know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You can see sales of all the previous editions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that sometimes is an interesting thing because there are things that didn't sell well on DVD that have done wonders for us on Blu-ray. The Burning is a great example. The Burning, you look at the prior DVD sales and you're like, yeah, shoulder shrug, and then did well for us. We try to do our best to predict and hone in, but
It's not an exact science.
absolutely.
What about another thing regarding that? A lot of your titles tend to just be Blu-ray now, whereas in the beginning it was Blu-ray and DVD.
Yep.
So is that partially a cost-effective decision, or are you finding more people are just buying Blu-rays at this point?
There's very little DVD market anymore.
Yeah,
Really?
it's definitely a combo of the two. I mean, I would have to say 90%, 95%, even 90% of our fan base just prefer to have on Blu-ray.
Wow.
And I agree with them. Listen, I came from a time like a lot of us was like, the difference between DVD and Blu-ray really isn't that different. And now I totally see the difference. It's like wearing glasses. Yeah. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And look, we're at the sort of, I think I don't want to say that we're end of the physical game. I know that there's 4K Blu-rays out there in the horizon or whatever, but a lot of people want it to look the best that it possibly can right now because on some levels, this may be the last physical stop for it. And so I get it, and there is a bit of cost savings, of course, if you're doing a combo or, or a separate DVD SKU. Yeah, we had that, in the first year, we had that interesting transition as to what to do and spend the more expensive transfers on things like X-Ray or, titles like that, Crawl Space, good examples, but we just saw where it was kind of going.
Mm-hmm. This is a great question. Benjamin Sunday, and I'm curious about this too. Any chance of branching out into more foreign horror films or J-horror, giallo, things like that? I always bring up, I'm amazed that nobody has done any of like the original Ring movies or The Grudge, like Ju-on.
Because they're stuck at DreamWorks.
See, that was my theory.
That's it.
So, and is DreamWorks just one of the companies that's kind of difficult to license from, or?
Their live action films are through Disney, so
Yeah.
not an easy place to get into.
Or even on the international Asian market, some of the ones that Tartan Asian Extreme put out in like the mid 2000s, there are some amazing titles in there. Have you guys ever like started venturing into the international markets any, or is it just not cost effective?
No, it's more that the sales just aren't there. I mean, Ju-on would be great to release, but it's at Lionsgate, so it ain't going anywhere.
And we just had some recent. We had Takashi Miike's "Over Your Dead Body" that we put out earlier in the year. Just didn't sell. I mean, I know that's really sad. It's not a knock on J-horror, but we've had a couple of I think the last one that we did was somewhat successful before the Scream line was Audition.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking that was 2009, somewhere around
And that's
there.
not on Blu-ray, right?
Yeah, it is on
it is?
Blu-ray.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Cliff was one of the first people to put it on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, as far I mean,
Just
we
sold
get
another unit.
we get we get a lot of international titles from the IFC Midnight Library. We have Baskin, that's really hardcore.
Oh, you guys are putting that one out?
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw that one.
That's
That's
awesome.
We're putting that out. And that's in August, and I think that takes care of some of the international stuff. For
Yeah,
a
that's
while.
got a lot of hype around it.
It's pretty hardcore. I couldn't get through it. And
Wow.
And we have Road Games with Barbara Crampton.
Oh, my
Games,
gosh.
Right, that's
really
a French
good.
one, I think.
It's in French.
Oh, the new
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
not the original one.
I
Yeah.
Q&A'd the screening of it that they did in Hollywood.
Oh,
The
really?
arena, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's where we get our stuff. But as far as actively going into it, I mean, we'll always be open to seeing if something comes up. But, there's some challenges. On
You guys
sales.
ever investigate the Devil's Director's Cut just for...
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a lot
it's
of people.
big
Now
one.
that it's touring, it feels
War.
like things are getting closer.
It's
know what?
never Warner Brothers is never putting that.
Never.
I mean, if Warner Brothers puts it out,
It'll be on their own
It'll
volition.
it'll grow on Criterion or something like
Yeah.
that. I know that they're sub-licensing. Might as well take this opportunity. No, we do not have any inroads with Warner Brothers at this time.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we mentioned that really to fans because we're frustrated too. They have lots of things in their library, the Devil's being one of them, but like just so many
Oh my-
dream
we talked
titles
about
that
that
we would
last
like.
night.
And, we've tried.
So
We'll
are they
continue
just
to.
holding them all for the Warner Archive, or are they just kind of holding them all?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I will say there's a Japanese film called Infection that is just dastardly in need of a Blu-ray release. So keep it on your radar, guys.
Okay.
You need it.
All right.
You need it.
Well, on that, on the Warner Brothers kick, somebody had asked, Matt Ray had asked about if there were any updates regarding the Lionsgate library, but I think this is a good time to just rattle through the companies that you're working with now and who still is off limits. I guess that would be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, it's easier to say who we're not going to be doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's even better.
Lionsgate, we're hearing rumors that they're going to, put out some of their stuff this year.
Okay.
We saw some threads on some forums recently that they were going to start dipping into that arena.
We've talked to them before.
But they're not
it's
interested.
not what they're interested
and
in
again,
doing.
so frustrating because there's lots of titles there, or Waxworks and blah blah blah.
But the
Just,
thing that
it
people
goes on.
don't understand is for a studio to license you titles, they have to go through and make sure everything is clear, the music's clear, the actors have signed off. They have to go and they have to find all the contracts.
Yeah.
And if they don't have contracts, for instance, Lionsgate bought a lot of libraries. If they don't have contracts for the titles, they're not going to do a deal for it because they're not going to open themselves up for a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So, a lot of movies are going to be stuck in limbo for things like that. And the fans, I know, they don't understand, but nobody wants to get into a litigious situation.
Right.
So, people aren't going to go there. And there are certain titles from even studios we work with that, if there isn't paperwork there, that they're not gonna sign the title to us.
Wow.
Is that where the Hitcher is? Somewhere out there in the universe?
Hitchers with
Pictures with
HBO.
HBO, which is through Warner, and
Probably
again,
just
the
not going anywhere.
Changeling is there. I mean, I might as well just list off the titles that we know that people want. Things like The Keep, that's still with Paramount. We cannot get to Blood Beach. We have no idea who has that one. We get requests for
I think
it.
that's exactly where it should be.
Yeah, I
No
think
one
it
knows.
needs to stay there.
It's a fun movie. We get requests for
It's
it.
probably
The
the most
sheriff
popular.
in it
That
is
cover would
amazing.
sell anyway.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We are still, we can't get Alligator at this time.
Oh, that one is so in need of a Blu-ray.
I know.
That's Lionsgate still, right?
At this point, it is.
What's the most requested thing you guys get that you just can't do? Where you're
It's
like,
just like, oh, they're saying this one
I would say
again.
Fright Night Part 2.
yes.
Fright Night Part 2.
I take full responsibility for saying it's better than the first.
And someone said
I love that film.
I mean, I doubt they would know for sure, but someone said, but Fright Night 2 is now with the producer or something. Has
Yeah.
anything changed with the rights to that? Or no?
No.
No.
Okay.
What is the right issue? Just so people who don't know anything about it, what is the issue with that film? Because it's never even had a good DVD.
It's in a library that nobody is claiming ownership of it.
Yeah.
So
And that happens with a lot of films, right? Where, and I remember this at least being the story for like Fade to Black, which is one that I remember recommending to you guys years ago, where like
I've talked
3
to
different
that.
people think that somebody else owns it, so therefore no one's going to touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know who owns Fade to Black. He just won't return my email.
It's the same as Hell Night, right?
No.
Oh, different? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
The one I wanted, so we talked about our most coveted titles that we'd most want to see in Blu-ray in general. And my number one still, I think, is Martin by George Romero. But I've never heard why that wouldn't be available. That seems like kind of a no-brainer title. Any idea?
Yeah, the producer owns the rights to it.
And he's just never been interested in putting it out? Or you don't know?
This is the same guy that did Dawn of the Dead as well, correct? The early Romero
Yeah.
movies.
Correct.
A lot of these, again, a lot of titles, especially the independent ones, can get a little mired up in, God, lots of things from just one's personal stake to legal stuff to, just, it can be.
It is sometimes because people
people-
overvalue what they think they could get from releasing.
People pass away and nobody knows who really owns it, or
But keep in mind, with all the titles that we just mentioned, I just want to say never say never. Because, look, we didn't think we could get some of the titles that we have put out over the years. Nightbreed, like all these kind of stuff too. We've had titles this year that are like, wow, I didn't see that one coming. Or fans would be like, I didn't see that one. So,
I have no problem being told no. So, I don't give up, and I will continue to go after the titles until I get a yes. So.
Cliff is
Great.
very persistent on that. I definitely give you a credit
So-
on that.
so
So we
what-
will continue to try on all those titles. Oh no, if we ever see openings, sometimes rights expire, even if they're with a studio, and then somehow Morgan Creek's The Crush and Bad Moon is a great example of that.
Bad
They
Moon
were-
is a movie I think
they
that people
were
are going to
with
have fun
Warner
with.
Brothers,
I always
and
When it
loved
finally comes
the
out.
werewolves in Bad Moon are
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so those those were always with Warner Brothers, and so they came up, they came available, and we got them. So
That model that Twilight Time uses, where it's only say, was it 1,000 units, very small amount. Have there been any titles that you guys that would benefit you guys doing that kind of a distribution model on?
it's interesting you say that because there are some titles that will be coming out later on in the year that we will be looking at doing an experiment, sort of a Shout Factory, Scream Factory exclusive, sort of onto our site. These would be titles that we have that we've had in our library that have existing HD masters. So we are not doing any new transfers or extras, and we're going to put them out on Blu-ray, and we will sort of tell the fans, like, look, if there's a good response to this, there may be more on the way.
Cool.
So you can look forward to seeing those kind of pop up, sort of an announcement in maybe late June, July. Yeah, there'll be about 5 titles.
I've got tons still.
Our friend Daniel Budnick from Bleeding Skull, he just wanted me
love
to
him.
thank you
Weirdest
for
film taste of
Rotar.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you for Rotar on Blu-ray. The day that came out was the day all of our dreams came true.
And that just kind of
I knew
stands
there
to
was a
his
fan
weird.
base for it.
I got to give Cliff credit. I had never seen that movie before, and then I popped down and watched it, and I remember
had the
texting
best cover.
Cliff and saying,
the poster's
this
great,
movie is so dumb. It's so inept and so, what were they thinking? It's just, I love it when we get movies like that. We have Hellhole coming up. Finally.
Can't
we
wait.
I've
saved
never
this
seen
movie
Hellhole.
from, oh my God, it's like, do you remember that movie Strange Behavior from the early 80s?
Oh, yeah, I own that
so,
one.
Strange Behavior meets like Roger Corman meets
A
Women's
women's
Prison
prison movie,
Massacre.
yeah.
Like, it's just Mary Warrenov's in it, and
Oh my God, my
it's
husband's
just-
going to love it.
is. It's insane. But like back to Rodar and like Ninja 3 and Women's Prison Massacre, we've had Troll 2, we've had some great, just so bad they're good movies, and I love those. Find them. So I thank Cliff a lot for catching some of these, but Rodar in particular, because they're just, it's pretty berserk.
Yeah. This is more for Cliff and on the Shout Factory side. I'm fascinated by this too. It's from my friend Steven Sapellis about Marvel movies, because you guys have put out the 1990 Captain America, which I love, and some of the other ones. Any chance of going after things like the obscure Doctor Strange TV movie, 70s Spider-Man show? And was it true that you tried for the Corman Fantastic Four at some point?
No, I mean, the Corman Fantastic Four will never come out. I mean, people can dream all they want, but that's never coming out.
And why is that? Is it an Elements issue?
From what I understand, is when Corman did the deal to produce that movie, Constantine Films had the rights to buy back the film if they were able to sell the rights to a studio. So when they were able to sell the rights to Fox, the movie just goes away. It's gone.
Really?
Weird.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
There's a great documentary about the making of that movie.
So we'll see if that story is true in the documentary.
But what about some of the other like Marvel stuff? Or is at this point it's because I don't know who owns a lot of those, like the Spider-Man TV show or the Doctor Strange TV movie.
I don't think Fox is ever going to let that go. So I wouldn't, unless they do it. I wouldn't see anybody else doing it.
Okay. And Jeff, there were several questions regarding the upcoming Jeepers Creepers releases, which I know is not an easy subject to tackle.
No.
But do you want to address some of the controversies that you guys have gotten just in terms of putting those out?
Well, before we did this podcast, I kind of figured that this question would come up, and there was sort of a question in my head of whether or not we would say anything about it, because it is a tricky, controversial kind of subject matter. But I'm going to do my best here to address it diplomatically and with sensitivity.
Okay.
So we acquired these films, Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, from a business standpoint. We've put out so many horror titles, as you know, big ones, and Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, just on paper, and the DVD sales looked attractive enough to warrant collector's editions. They both made $50 million at the box office. Their DVD sales were pretty huge. And although they had been on Blu-ray before, those numbers did pretty well. So we thought, let's entertain this. Now, we weren't naive. We knew the backstory, but we also knew that it had come out before. And we did figure that we would get some social media comments on it. We were not prepared, however, for, in this day and age in social media, you would think for me doing this for 4 years, I would, not be surprised, but social media now is a place for people to galvanize, and people to bring home the matter, and a lot of people to go on and talk about it. And a lot of people who didn't know about the issue before of the director, and it just turned into a shitstorm that day. It was not a day that I was particularly happy to be looking at our Facebook page. That being said, we want to say that we definitely see all sides of the issue. There's a lot to go in there. The crime itself, forgiveness, divorcing creative from personal. There's a lot of stuff in there. We in our company even had internal strife over this release as well. And the die is cast. The releases are coming out. The extras are great. If you're a fan of Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, you'll be happy with our releases. If you're not a fan of those releases, or if you, are disappointed that we released it, we acknowledge that, we respect it, and we don't want to take that away from anybody. One thing I will say is that we have had some questions about whether or not we would go into MGM's vault and get the film Clown House, which was unfortunately the film which the controversy took shape and form, and we will not go after that title. We never ever entertained that title, and I hope that for some people that's not going to balance out the scales, but I kind of felt it was important to let people know that we did think about this. We have heard it all. We are not going to promote it as much on our social media because we don't want to antagonize others that, they have a right to be, their feelings to this. It's complicated for a lot of people. God, I hope that was the best way to do it because
That
I'm
was
sitting
very
like,
well done.
my face is like boiling red right now, and like I mean, just it's a very
It is hard because you hear back from people straight away, and it's from social justice warriors, but to legitimate concerns to people who've had their own issues with similar crimes. It's now, and we're in a world where you hear back straight away.
Yes,
It's not a one-way
And in
conversation
excess.
anymore.
yes,
You know?
and for me. I have to tell you, a part of the success of our brand is we've been really communicated to fans. We address when there's a problem with a disc or if there's something that's going on, we like to at least inform. And up until right now, we've just had to keep quiet. We had to keep, and again, we even debated whether we were going to say anything here. But
also, as film viewers versus, that's not even to get into the crime part, but as film viewers versus, the social and crime element, it's like, I grew up Polanski being my favorite director. The reason I got into wanting to make movies, and then you learn about a crime and you realize I can't, if somebody ever gets on my case and says, oh, I have nothing to say. I don't know what I can even, I can't defend him.
Right.
Because I wouldn't defend him.
Right.
But then that doesn't take, when I watch The Tenant, I go, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Right.
And I can't express, so this idea of differentiating the artist, I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying as a viewer, I don't know what else, kind of like what you're saying, I don't know what to tell you because as a viewer, I want to watch this thing, but I understand the implications around it,
And many people, again, had different, different viewpoints of like, well, he served his time, but then other people are like, well, that wasn't enough time. And there's, everybody kind of has to kind of personally go at it, in themselves and kind of bring up those issues. And I'll tell you that, that Facebook thread that actually got picked up from some horror outlets because it was like, look, here it all is. I wish we hadn't have had to take the brunt of that to a degree, but I understand it. And again, I'm not trying to diminish anybody who is still angry about it. I mean, we announced the extras a couple of weeks ago, and we've had some attacks on Twitter, and I get it. I understand. We get it. So.
I think it's brave just to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right now.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, good.
It's a tough
good.
tough
Well, it
one
is
to talk
tough,
about.
and it continues. I mean, it will be. But we.
Well, a lot of us saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I saw the first Jeepers Creepers before knowing anything about it. And
Same here.
purely objectively, I
Right.
enjoyed it very much as a movie with knowing nothing about the story.
Yeah, it was
and then
enough to-
afterwards, things get murky.
Well, the Creeper is a very modern day boogeyman. And there's a reason why there was, it was so successful and
there haven't been many,
sequel.
has there, in the
Right.
last 20
No,
years, really?
There really hasn't.
Yeah.
But social media. So it's the beast. I live it every single day. Let me tell you.
But I have to
there are
say-
times when I'm surprised
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
dive
drunk.
down the rabbit hole.
You guys are so good with the fans, though, because most of the companies that I see on Facebook, they don't respond back if the fans are like, well, you guys shouldn't release this or you should release this. And you guys are responsive.
Well,
you give them ownership over the stuff.
Look, we try to be. We've said this from the very beginning. We are fans. Cliff and I and people in the office. We're fans of this content. We're fan of the brand itself. And if we are on the other end, we would like to, be acknowledged or sometimes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times where my page is populated with, can you get this? Can you get this? Can you get this? I can't say it, or I can't, or here's the other thing too. You would think that this would be some common sense, but if a fan says, hey, do you have this movie? I'm never going to say, yes, we do in an individual because it's just, that's, we would never disclose something like an announcement just to it.
It'd be kind of cool if you did.
Right. No, I know. But it just,
You've let a couple slip here
Right, it
before.
doesn't-
Exclusive exposed to Caitlin on Twitter.
Right. It doesn't kind of, and this doesn't mean that a person doesn't, you don't have to stop doing it. It's just, we've sometimes had to politely say, hey, generally speaking, we don't divulge titles, but in this case, we can't get the keep. Like that's usually how I'll phrase it. But what's often it's funny because we'll even yesterday somebody said, do you guys still do you guys open to requests? And I've said yes, we are. Just keep in mind though that we've probably heard it all at this point, and we have. I don't think there's one.
Very rare when there's one that we.
Yeah, and if there is one that we haven't heard, then we go, oh, well, it's really obscure, and we probably can't, unless it's in some sort of a film package or something like that.
I mean, it's a little more controversial than what we've been talking about, but where the hell's Slumber Party Massacre 2?
Yeah,
I mean,
guys.
seriously, guys, you put out one, safe choice, bold move, guys. Part 2,
Nobody bought number 1, so
It's 'cause it didn't
well, I
have
wouldn't
the-
say
Cliff,
nobody,
it doesn't have,
but
it doesn't have
the
singing.
rock and roll killer, guys. I mean, that's what
We
sells
know.
it.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you why, because the part 2, you'll have the greatest extra of all time. You'll have an interview with the guy who's playing the rock star, who is his parents owned Little Caesars Pizzas and the Detroit Red Wings, and he's like now the head of that board that runs that entire thing. I'm like, there's an interview. The guy who played a slasher. is now-
the kind of person that won't interview.
Don't think small, Cliff.
Before I delve into some of the future titles, somebody would asked about Shout Select, which I'm just kind of getting wind about. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's more not necessarily horror titles, but
No, I mean, Shout Select is a new brand for Shout Factory that was basically born out of the success of Scream Factory. The other people in marketing and sales have seen what we have done as a brand in the 4 years. They've also acknowledged, as I do too, that even with our lower performing titles, I often think, God, if this wasn't in the Scream Factory line, this would be half as bad, And so they do see the value of, when you put things in a collection. Look, we as fans, we cherry pick, but there's a lot of collectors who are like, I want everything in this series. And so they may be open to a title that they wouldn't normally take I mean, think of all the titles in our brand right now. People are like, oh, I've never heard of Nightmares. I've never heard of, this movie.
The Outing. What was it? You had that box set of
The
two of them.
Outing,
I'd
or
never
the
heard of.
Godsend, like all
Yeah,
these
Godsend.
things. Like, it's just kind of like they'll take their chance. So, yes. So they're going to, they're rolling out with, I think they've already mentioned Bill and Ted is coming.
I didn't know that.
Midnight
Bill
Run.
and Ted,
Midnight
Run.
That's a great one.
Roadhouse is that somebody
Roadhouse
mentioned
is
that?
in that.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse. Yeah, so
I love
look at-
that.
Look how excited.
Is there
Well,
is there a
our
separate
son's
Facebook?
named Dalton.
So your excitement right now is exactly what the hope is for this line, is that they'll acquire those kind of, Buckaroo Banzai was a great example of like, that was a Scream title at one point, and then this brand evolved and then it went into there and it made more sense. It's not, we have horror and sci-fi, but that's a different kind of sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
It's more of a comedy bent or whatever. So,
Is there a
fingers
separate
crossed, it's
Facebook
exciting.
page? Because I
There
gotta
is.
keep track of
There
these
is.
titles.
There's a new one. They don't have a Twitter at this point, but they do have a Facebook
Okay.
page. And if you go to the shoutfactory.com site, there's an area where they'll eventually populate with more titles and more announces. I know that Cliff in particular has some good stuff lined up that hasn't been announced yet. I think fans will be really happy about for sure.
And it's completely not horror. Well, it could be kind of linked to horror, but I just have to thank Shout Factory in general for putting out the Decline box set. The Decline of Western
Oh,
Civilization
yeah.
box set.
Much coveted for like,
Amazing.
I used to work at Amoeba for years, and every time anyone asked about it, we're like, "It's never coming out because
You
of music
did
issues."
decrease
Never.
the value of my
Like, that's
VHS
not
copies. Thanks, guys. But yeah, for a while, those were like the cornerstone of my collection. Like, yeah, I've got all the Declines
You
on
brought that one in,
VHS.
didn't you?
vintage,
Yeah.
You shepherded
but-
that one in.
Well, it
Yeah.
was because Penelope and I got along so well when we did Suburbia.
Oh, yeah.
See, now
So,
since you're friends
that's
with
what it was.
Penelope, there is Summer Camp Nightmare. I'm sure you guys have gotten that title before. but
Lionsgate, I think. I think Summer Camp Nightmare. It's a late. It's
might
did she
be.
direct that one?
She wrote it. I don't think she
yeah.
directed it,
was
but it's a
late
really tight
80s, like,
script.
VHS
I'll have
type
to
of
ask her
thing.
about that.
Yeah, it's about a couple of
NBC
kids
put it
who
out, I think.
Yeah.
it's very late 80s, but they start rebelling against
Yep.
the counselors at a summer camp, and it becomes like pure anarchy, and then the kids reign. And yeah, she wrote the script, and it's total punk rock.
It's funny because
Sounds like it, yeah.
I remember seeing that box when I was a kid, and I would read the back. And I'm like, this isn't Friday the 13th, and it was. I was like, there's no slasher in this. I don't care. Like,
No, it's total like punk rock anarchy at a summer camp.
It totally
So,
sounds
yeah.
fun now.
It's like Lord of the Flies. And, yeah, it's
Which
awesome.
Scream Factory title has the most unmoved units? And I only ask this not to make fun of them,
but because we're going to sell some
I'm gonna
right now.
sell 5. I guarantee you, I'm going to move 5 units tonight of whatever. It doesn't mean it's the least
boy.
popular, just the most
gotta-
sitting around. Like they're
Let me
just
look at my
units.
let me look at the list.
I even used the word
And while
units,
you're-
not
And in the
copies.
meantime, while you look at the list,
I'm just gonna say Freeway 1 and 2, boys. That's Freeway 1 and 2 is where it's at. Get there.
I will say that.
you have
let's
it?
see. Oh no, I got my list right here. I got it. Sometimes I have to look at these. Well, There wasn't a
The TV terrors.
the TV terrors experiment just didn't work for us at all. And when we have people that say, yeah, but you didn't put out good TV movies with it. Now, I'll say that about maybe the second one with what's her face? I always want to say Kirby from Dynasty.
Kathleen
Bell.
Oh, Kathleen
But the
Bell.
first one was The Initiation of Sarah, and that's a classic TV 70s movie, and that should have carried it. On some level, You'll Like My Mother, which just came out recently, has often been perceived as a TV movie because it ran on TV so often. It was actually a little theatrical release. That didn't do quite as well as we had hoped either. And so, that
Of the bigger title, like of a film everyone's kind of heard of, what is there one that's sitting around there? Like, man, we have like this giant. I'm just assuming you're in a room with all the copies.
You're surrounded. It's like a warehouse.
Okay, so
with you
here's the
guys in
thing. So
middle.
thankfully on those bigger titles like I mentioned Garbage Pail Kids or something like or Squirm or something that didn't quite do the level. We still don't build like crazy
Fortress.
units where it's like, wow, we're just sitting on 100,000 of these. That actually happens on the bigger titles that go into Walmart. And if those things don't sell, then it's like, okay, how do we get rid of this inventory? I mean, it can,
But those are the modern titles.
those are the modern titles. Yes.
So you're living in a tower of copies of returned sales from Walmart. Of which title again? So I'm really sad to hear Slumber Party Massacre didn't sell more because that was one I was really excited about.
We were too.
We were too,
And it looks great.
And it looks great, and it just didn't.
All right, that's going to be my title then. Please show your love for this company.
That's the
by
one you're
Slumber
pushing
Party
this
Massacre. And if
Slumber
we can
Party
see
Massacre.
a spike in that, they're going to thank us for that spike. And they will greenlight a Battery 2. You heard it here first. Battery 2, in-house production. This all comes together, guys.
Yeah, it's all kismet here.
This is why we keep coming.
So,
back.
I know.
do we have any other amazing questions? I know we had a ton.
Well, you know what? You guys covered a lot of ground just in answering. You answered a lot of the questions along the way.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about the upcoming slate? How far ahead are we looking? We planned all the way through the summer, or
We
what's...
are pretty much done with basically this year's Summer Fear. So all of the titles that encompasses beginning of May through the end of August. We've
Right.
announced all of that, and that's coming. And then at the end of May, beginning of June, we'll be announcing some more September titles, and then at the end of June, the big October titles.
So
Got a
we're
lot.
planning big for October as usual.
We have about 8 or 9 collector's editions planned for the rest of the year, starting in September. That's all I'm going to say.
Now-
There's some really good ones in there.
Are you guys
Some
doing-
really strong ones, some ones that are going to be surprises, ones that will have new film transfers, ones that will just be, there'll be some really excited people.
Well, let's talk about something we can talk about, because I got to say that of all the titles, might even become my favorite. I haven't watched your release of it yet, but it's one of the best movies I think ever made, and that's Manhunter. And the fact that that's dropping, I mean, I assume you have some of those great extras that it used to have. Had a great interview with Dante Spinotti where he'd break down a visual scene.
Yeah,
and I always teach with that scene. I always show that clip. I show the clip of the two guys kind of shot reverse shot mirroring each other. And I feel like the success of Hannibal, this is perfect timing for this to be.
Well, for me, it's,
coming out.
I of course bought all those Anchor Bay DVDs as they were coming out. So the thing about Manhunter, or anytime you announce a new project that I've already owned multiple copies of, my concern is like, oh man, can I sell my DVD? Is it going to have the director's cut? And now with Army of Darkness and now Manhunter, it seems like you've incorporated everything that's ever been put out and put them on these discs.
Well, recently, and this is a great credit to Cliff, we just scored a huge win with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah.
We saw nonstop glowing press
right here.
and
I got it
we had fans that when we announced this, they were like, why bother?
Yeah.
Arrow's done this. The other, why? There's already been, what are you going to do to up the stakes? And we did. And it is one of our best reviewed, and we're really proud of it. But again, a lot of credit to Cliff on this particular. The artwork was perfect.
Yeah, I think that's
us.
actually one of your best covers.
It's like a lot of
it's a
people
really great
really
cover. My
favorite.
responded.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool that you included the original scan from the original release. Like that's it. Like
Well,
It's not a scan, but
I'm sorry. The original.
we did because that one was DP approved, and the last thing we wanted to do on this particular release is to not include it because it would sort of be like, well. But our release,
and I
our
mean,
scan.
some
had
people
to-
were like, "Oh, you're including it because your scan is terrible," and that wasn't the case.
No,
It was
our scan
just,
was better,
we were
but-
trying to
Right.
make it as complete as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Well,
I love
and
that
then
you guys. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, no,
no,
go.
I love that you guys. And you've done it. I think on a couple of them now. The Horrors Hollow
yeah,
Yeah,
Sean
Sean,
Clark,
Sean Segman.
We
I,
love Sean.
Well,
I
there
thought,
was-
I thought the one he did for Texas Chainsaw 2 is fantastic.
yeah, it's amazing.
Well, the one we had a lull for a while where we just didn't have the right properties for him to do, and then they just kind of naturally came up. I think he did Village of the Damned and
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw. He's doing for upcoming Return of the Living Dead, which Return of the Living Dead is another one where people are like, we announced it last year. What are you guys going to do? Then we announced the extras. There's a new scan. There's new this. And by the way, that new scan, Cliff can
amazing.
already talk about it. But
Really?
I mean,
Oh,
it
man.
looks really, I've seen a couple of screenshots of myself. I'm like, wow, okay. So
What's the date on that? What
that
part?
is July 19th.
That should be a big. I mean,
Yeah.
that I would
Yes.
imagine.
That
can't
one's
wait.
to
It's one
do.
of my
We're selling
favorites.
it. We're selling it early on our site. But yeah, I mean, we can already see the pre-orders on Amazon are doing well, and
Have you already
everything.
done the art reveal for that one?
That one's all done.
Oh,
everything is all set.
So let me go back to Texas Chainsaw. If I'm picking this up and I haven't seen this since DVD, it's been a few years. Which of these two discs would you suggest if I want the one that's going to look the best to me?
First one. The
For
first
disc one.
disc. Yeah.
Disc one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
that's
new-
the
That's why
2K.
it's the new
2K
the
scan
new
is
2K
really
scan
nice.
is good.
That's good to hear.
But Texas Chainsaw. The reason why I cite this one too is that Return of the Living Dead is following up with it, but you're going to see several of the films that I hinted at follow this kind of same model of like, we realize that you've either doubled or bought this before, but we want to aim to make ours as definitive as possible. We announced Invasion of the Body Snatchers recently, and although we haven't announced any specs, we can say that we are doing a new transfer on that. So that's an early sneak peek.
Yeah, that's actually
for
just one of my favorite movies. It's
Yeah.
probably my favorite remake. Even up there with
really
The Fly.
great movie.
It's really tight.
Has Philip Kaufman ever done a commentary on that before?
Yeah,
He
It
had
was on
already.
the previous release.
Oh, okay. So do you get access to that just inherently?
It's on there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then there's things like Raising Cain, Little De Palma.
Yeah, Little De Palma. We're
Session 9, Psycho 4, I'm very excited about.
Sean Clark is all over Session 9.
Yeah.
Telling you, if you're a fan of that film, you're not going to be disappointed with the extras and everything he brings to the table. He's been talking about that movie to us for a long time. We've had it on our radar. It was part of our
Yeah, I was
Universal
already
deal.
a fan of it. Yeah.
So, that's going to turn out really good. Let me see, going on here. We got some new films, The Funhouse Massacre. Cliff picked this one up as a new contemporary title that has Robert Englund. And,
The trailer looked
what's
really
his name?
fun.
Clint
It's
Howard
really
and
fun movie.
Courtney
Gaines,
Gaines. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
in it. So, I mean, it's just,
It's a very fun movie. I really enjoyed it.
it's really fun. We've mentioned the Jeepers Creepers. We dipped into, I mentioned Morgan Creek. We're trying our hat in the 90s thriller, The Crush, that kind of,
Yeah.
Oh, with Alicia.
I love that film when I was
Yeah,
Silverstone.
just so, I mean, we got
and Carrie Elways. Yeah.
Yeah, we did try to go for Alicia and Carrie, and they just didn't want to talk about it. We do have some extras.
I got this on QuickDial.
But
Me and Alicia. I stood next to her once
right.
at a ferry fair. So
Oh, yeah, I was
I
there.
stood
We were
next to her
there
and
with
I was
you.
tweeting as I'm standing next to her messages to the world about how excited I was. She still looked good.
No,
she was
we were
wearing,
at the
she looked a
same-
little more grunge hipster now, but
Yeah, we were at the same ferry fair because we took our
Very
kids
exciting.
to it together, and I remember walking past her, and my husband was like, "That was Alicia Silverstone."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes, that
she
was."
still has that upturned lip. I love it.
well, she didn't
And
want.
I will buy Crush for you guys.
She didn't
And now
want to talk
everyone's
about
going
the
to the
Crush,
ferry
which we
fair.
were a little not surprised, but we were a little surprised. It was her first film. That was
That was like one of
Yeah,
her
I thought
two
that
biggest
was, like,
films.
What
Yeah.
kicked off?
It
Like,
was.
She
It
was in
was
that,
her-
and then she did like
Clueless.
the Aerosmith videos.
Oh no, it's the
Clueless.
Aerosmith,
And then Clueless.
The Aerosmith videos, and then
that
Crush,
jumped
and
into
then
Crush.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's coming. Cliff's been working really closely with director Eric Red for Bad Moon. A lot of extras, a lot of good stuff coming together for that.
We're doing a lot of special features for Bad Moon, so the fans should be very happy.
I'm excited. The werewolves in that were always so badass. I was really sad that the movie didn't get
Thor.
more.
Yeah, I just saw. You know what? Believe it or not, I'd never seen the movie, and I watched it recently, and I was cracking up. But it was the dog is such a central character that I was like, huh. And then just, it gets really berserk at the end, and there's a great scene with Mariel Hemingway. Sorry, spoiler for people, but she was like, "Get the fuck off my son!" I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" It was very. I was just
A long time ago, before most people listening will ever remember, there was a show called Killer POV, which won a Ronda. It was a very long time ago. But on our werewolf episode, this is why I would bring it up now. I think it's my favorite werewolf attack in a movie is the opening sequence.
Yeah, it's pretty,
of Bad Moon. I think it's
hardcore.
so savage and ugly, and for a long time people couldn't really see it. I think I saw it on VHS, so this would be reason enough to pick it up to me. It's such a cool scene.
It is a very hardcore opening.
Yeah. Great effects, just interesting. Yeah.
And then speaking of werewolves, we have, for the first time ever to home entertainment format. We love it when we can do these for film. We did it with, Without Warning. We did it with, Blood and Lace. And we have The Boy Who Cried Werewolf, which was a 1972 werewolf film that's never been out before. Originally, this was supposed to be double featured, with, which
7 S's.
7 S's.
7 S's,
yes.
exactly.
I asked that at trivia one night.
sure
How
you
many
did.
S's
Oh, are you
are
serious?
in
That's a
Sus?
great question. And it was originally theatrically ran as a double feature, but we were not able to double feature them together. But we're saving this one. So this is the type of film that I mentioned earlier. It's like we really need people to come in and buy these these type of films too, because what is working are the collector's editions and the bigger films, and sort of what is not working are, the obscure films. I mean, and we want to continue to put them on, partly we're fans, partly because we like preserving them, and, so buy that one. So that's Slumber Party Massacre, we appreciate sales of that. Get movies like that. Get movies like that and Hellhole.
I was, for one, thrilled to see Sus by
Hellhole-
itself.
What?
I was, for one, thrilled to see by itself.
yeah.
Right. Well,
So-
or
I call it 7 S's.
Yeah. 7 S's.
we've taken some chances. Sunny Boy was another one.
Sunny Boy
the
was
Guardian. I mean,
weird.
we've put out some wacky,
Well, the Guardian's
stuff like-
Friedkin, so it's a little less, it's easier. But Sunny Boy is truly unique. Like when I saw it before you guys put it out, a listener sent me a
I know.
burned disc. And that
You were a
film kind of
big
blew
fan
my
of it.
mind. I mean, it was just so out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It is
And I actually
pretty
haven't seen the Blu-ray yet, so I'm excited to check it out. But
I
I've
had
heard the
never seen it
writer's
before
really
that movie.
interesting.
Yeah, it was
I gotta
crazy.
track him down.
We mentioned Hellhole, but again, I have to say that this is a film that we had canceled years ago.
Right.
And
This is because
again,
of Elements, right?
because of Elements, we couldn't find what we had was,
We had an inner positive, but it was missing like 10 minutes, and it was missing all the nudity.
right. All the all the good stuff, basically. So, but we were able to track down a print. So it's sort of a Frankenstein, kind of like what we did with Final Terror.
Yeah.
But it still looks pretty good.
Looks
And I'm
great.
telling you, if you are a fan of that exploitation type of stuff from the mid 80s,
Yo.
that's sleazy. I mean, this is a sleazy movie, but it plays in its own wild, weird universe. It's something else. So,
It's so weird to see Marjo Gortner in it because he was a preacher,
yeah,
before
yeah.
he
and
became an actor.
He's
and
playing
this
like a
movie is
scientist, and it's
so sleazy. Yeah.
and Ray Sharkey is just this despicable. I mean, there's mud baths in there. There's cat fights. It's just it's nuts.
it's just as great as not Savage Streets.
Yeah.
Chained Heat.
Yeah, it has that
Chained Heat's one of my
it's
favorite
just that
prison
same
movies.
weird vibe of like, what were you thinking? But
What about that title? This is just off the top of my head. We were talking about it last week. Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Why? Do you know why that one's not on Blu-ray?
Paramount.
Paramount.
And,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
damn.
But it could be at one day. It
So
could.
Warner,
be.
so
Warner.
Warner Brothers. Right?
Oh, that's a Warner Brothers too.
Well, because Warner Brothers has
yeah.
the Paramount catalog.
There's so many of these little movies that I imagine they would just look so much better. Oh, the
I
other
know.
one was Full Circle, The Haunting of Julia. Do you know?
We don't know who has. Wait, isn't it
Sony had it last,
right?
But,
But we don't know. We got a lot of
don't know
requests
if
for
they-
that.
I
too.
feel that could be a film that could like The Tenant, where if it was on Blu-ray, suddenly a lot of people would discover it. Like they don't know it's out there really, but it would.
Right.
I think that'd be a good one.
No, and there's one that I've asked, and oh gosh, the name just slipped my brain, that I've asked about every single time you have come on. The
You ask about Cemetery Man all the time.
Yeah, I've asked about Cemetery Man a lot. The sequel to this one is Witch Hunt.
Witch Trap? Wait, no.
No, Witch Hunt is the second one. Dave, what's the first one? You know this.
It's a Lovecraft thing, right?
Yeah, it's Lovecraft. It's like an act, and it was on Cinemax. Cast a Deadly Spell. Thank you. Board up, Dave.
Fred Ward was in the first one, and Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper, yeah,
Hopper's
it's a
in
Dennis
Witch
Hopper.
Hunt,
I've
the
heard it's
second
really
one.
cool. I've
So
never
Cast
seen
a Deadly Spell, that's one.
They're
I
both at
absolutely
HBO.
love that one from my childhood.
HBO. Yeah, they have the
yeah.
Changeling too.
Oh,
and again, another
everyone always
one.
asks about that.
Everybody
The
asks for
Hitcher.
it. Yep, and the Hitcher.
And so why is HBO difficult? They just have
They're
never.
it's part of Warner Brothers. It's in that it's in that
Don't license.
clump. Yeah.
I wonder why they wouldn't just like remaster these things and play them on air. You know, it's their channel.
We will,
That's probably where you'll see them before you'll see them on home
Okay,
video.
yeah. Hold
Yeah.
on to your assets, I guess.
It's interesting. Again, when you put in overhead priorities, I've worked at other companies before. I mean, it goes back to what we said originally is that, if some fans, be like, well, Universal would eventually put out some Blu-ray. No, they wouldn't. No, it's just that the likelihood of that is just not there. So when you're talking with bigger studios on their overhead and all that kind of stuff like that, a title like what you were mentioning
Cast a Deadly Spell.
just isn't the unit threshold, all that kind of stuff. It just
Plus, they have to hire attorneys to
Yep.
go through all the paperwork, and most of the time, it's just not worth their time to go through it. And we always hear, why didn't you include the deleted scenes? Well, that's an illegal issue as well, because
that comes up a lot.
If there's music that needs to be cleared in those scenes, or if there is an actor who is in those scenes but is not in the movie, you have to go to SAG and you have to clear that. And
Oh my gosh.
people just think
It's amazing movies get put out.
You know what?
People just think this stuff is also just sitting around for you to go access, and it's not. People threw things away. If once you cut the film and it's out on video and it's out in the theaters and it's been on TV, they just chuck the stuff.
Yeah.
They just don't hold on to it. So it's like, it's very hard to deal with deleted scenes.
So that means just to put out Manhunter, somebody had to go clear the rights for Anagata Devita.
Well, of course,
And that's just like you never even think about how detailed that has to
and
be.
more and more what's happening is that they will clear the music for its original broadcast because that's all they're really concerned about at the time, and they won't clear it for home video use. So now you have to go out and clear the music. And there's the thing about, the Damned song that is not in Return of the Living Dead anymore. And, we heard about it at the minute we announced it. And it's like, we would like to restore the song in the film, but we can't. And
and it's not for lack of trying.
It's just in some cases a lot of times we're just not allowed to.
Right.
So.
No. Like I said, there are many hurdles.
A lot of misconceptions about what you do and how difficult it is.
Some films roll off, the assembly line, so to speak, very smoothly, and then there's other ones where you get more involved and intricate. And let's not forget dealing with talent and extras, dealing with directors that sometimes can be maybe a little temperamental. That's a nice way of putting it. There's lots of moving pieces and people and artwork, and we have our own politics at Shout Factory too, and there's just it is a juggling act. It is. We make it look easy when you hold that Blu-ray in your hand. You're like but every now and then we're human. There's a spelling error, and believe me, we're called out on it, and we're bummed because we're like, we didn't catch it. But gotta understand that we're just also juggling a lot of information, and
It's not like we have humongous staff,
Right. Yeah. People also need to remember we're also, a small company too, But anyways,
do you get requests for the sequel to Return of the Living Dead, or is that
yes, all the time, and that's with Warner Brothers.
Oh, that was the right thing, because that's always been really hard to.
Yeah, it's a hard one to find.
I just ask you because we're very obsessed by Ken Wiederhorn all of a sudden.
Because
of the new name.
Listen, nobody wants Eyes of a Stranger on Blu-ray more than me.
It's a
huge
really cool
fan
movie.
of that film. So,
the bad guy in that's super creepy.
Just the music and everything.
Skin crawls with that guy.
But we digress.
Okay.
We mentioned Bite. We have a new psychological religious themed thriller called The Binding that's coming. That's new for us. We mentioned Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We touched on Raising Cain. We did have to delay that street date recently, but knock on wood for some good reasons.
I'm anxious to see Raising Cain again. It scared me when I watched it, but I was really young seeing it, and I remember being really scared by John Lithgow.
Great performance.
He puts in a great performance in
really
the film,
fun.
and I mean it's De Palma. I'm sorry, you just can't. I mean,
Batshit De Palma.
Yeah.
can't even go. It just
Full bonkers.
It may not be Dressed to Kill or
It's fun, though.
but
I remember liking it a lot.
Yeah,
It's been years
it's
since I've
fun.
seen it.
It's a film where I remember thinking De Palma is going back to his old like Dressed to Kill type of films and sort of playing fun with some of the tricks that he did with that. But again, it's all about John Lithgow in that film. So that one is coming out. Let's see. We mentioned Baskin. We mentioned Session 9. Psycho 4. So,
Which is a TV movie.
well, it is a TV movie,
Cable.
but it's
Cable,
part of the
yeah.
Psycho line. And, Psycho 2 and 3, they sold okay for us. They sold pretty decent. Again, that goes back to some collector's edition stuff where we couldn't do new art on it. Or actually, we did do new art and we had to can it. And some of the extras, they were good, but they weren't as bountiful as we had hoped for. We couldn't get like McTilly, for instance, or some of the stuff. But we did have enough people asking about Psycho 4 for quite a while. And, we got it.
That's awesome.
Eventually, which is really good. And a lot of excitement on that. We mentioned, we had to move Lady in White, which was I forget how to say his last name, Frank LaLoggia film that was supposed to come out in spring, but, the director is super, super, super involved in that release. And we just needed to delay it one more time to make some sort of things. We haven't announced all the specs on it, but I think that fans of the film will be really happy.
I vividly remember that box cover.
With a little
hadn't
kid
in the
yeah.
corner with the blue
Yeah, I remember
shadows.
that cover, yeah.
That one. I haven't seen it since, I know I rented it when I was a kid, but I don't think I've seen it since then. I remember it's a ghost story.
Yeah,
But that's about all I got. But the box cover art was crazy good.
I've never seen it myself, and I don't know if you've seen it
Oh, yeah, I
recently.
love that
Cliff.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give a shout out to your competitors. What is one film? Because we
You're
can't just be
such
here
a
to sell.
problem child.
I know.
tonight. I love
Elric's-
it.
He's the rebel
Because you
rouser
only gave
here.
me 3 free products. Is there a film? No, as fans, because you can't just sit in your own product. Of course, you guys watch everything.
of
But
course.
is there a release this year that impressed you or that excited you that came from a different company that you were impressed by the release they did?
That's a really good question.
As a fan, made you
And
excited.
I don't have any sort of not playing kind in the sandbox type of attitude. I would say, you mean like this year? I think I got to give props to Arrows the Mutilator. I thought that,
great release.
this movie finally
it was a
came
much
out.
better release than it deserved.
Yeah, I know. Big Ed got way
when,
good
when,
on
when
that.
Arrow's releases of Blood Rage and
It was
the
Blood Rage that
Mutilator
I was
are
thinking about for us, yeah.
hysterically overdone. It's
Yeah.
just wow for these kind
Blood
of
Rage.
movies. Blood Rage is pretty funny.
Blood Rage is actually a pretty fun movie.
Oh no, it is.
I don't know if the
it
Mutilator's
is.
fun or if the murders are good, but Blood Rage was.
I would
was
say,
impressed by Blood Rage.
Grindhouse Pieces did a really good job this year. They did a great job with the
And
transfer.
are they even competition? Because he's so specific. I mean, that's.
Well,
they
but
don't
when
put out many
when a
titles.
release does come out, and then it is competition to a
Everything's
degree.
a
Everything
competition,
is,
yeah.
I can't, I don't know if Scorpion or Code Red has put out some stuff recently, but I usually like some of their
Some of the Code
some
Red.
of their
I'm
titles.
lately really liking Kino Lorber because I picked up the Effects movies and Highway to Hell, which was an obscure early 90s movie.
Gog
they
and Black
have
Sleep.
some interesting releases, and there's some that I'm a fan of that I'll get down the road. I mean, like I said, I'm happy to see these come out. Would I like for more of them to come out through our line? Yes, but we know that we're that's not financially feasible, and some of the titles that the other studios are getting too. Well, we often scratch our heads and say, okay, well, we wonder what your overhead is like, because we kind of know how some of those titles are going to sell. And,
Right.
and we do kind of wonder, are you going to make a profit on that one? But
Who's releasing the when Phantasm is finally released? Does anyone know?
I don't
Has
think anyone knows yet.
no,
Okay,
no.
They have 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's why. Yeah, I mean, but I know J.J.
No,
Abrams is doing the transfer, so I didn't know.
They haven't now.
So, Cliff, one title, something that you enjoyed watching this year that came from elsewhere and no one.
I can't really think of anything.
Did you see Blood Rage? Had you seen it before?
No, I haven't.
You should check it out.
It's a special movie.
I mean, there are
Special is definitely the word.
There are titles from other studios that we would, give our right arm to, get. I mean,
What's your one dream? Like the one that you've always wanted to release?
Well, there are three.
It was The Sentinel.
No, it was
And
The
you got it.
Sentinel.
Yeah.
Good job on that. I
And
just watched it.
at
too.
all
It was great.
costs.
Sentinel, yes.
Seeing it
So
again.
after The Sentinel, I thought, whatever. But if there were a few on my hand that I could be like, it would be Carrie. I mean, the original Carrie. It's part of. I mean, I often, Cliff and I come from this together equally, but there are three films that shaped me as a horror fan, and that is The Fog, which we put out, Halloween, which we put out, and Carrie, which would be a dream to get. So,
How did the sequels do for that? Because you guys did the sequel and the remake.
Didn't do anything for us.
I
But
like the Rage Carrie,
original. There are fans of it that just did not work. So Carrie would be one. Alligator was just a movie for me, and if Warner Brothers would just put Cruising on Blu-ray, because I'm sorry, that's a horror film. It's a slasher film at the end of the day.
Well, and it also deserves Blu-ray, because when I saw the DCP I mentioned on the show, I'd seen it on video, and it is just a different movie on DCP. It is so clean, and it looked so good, and the VHS is so muddy and dark,
grainy.
and I missed a lot of the details of the transference of the killer. But when I saw it again on the screen, I was like, this is a great movie, not just an okay kind of dirty weird movie. It's a really great movie. It's scary.
It's the other thing too is that the DVD release was color timed differently from Friedkin for whatever reason, and I just recently saw it on the screen, and it's the original color timing would be nice to have. But that being said, those three titles, I'm so proud of what we've done. I often remember when I thanked Cliff personally for bringing Deadly Blessing, which was a film that was one our very first year, and it was like, oh my God, we saved this one, and I never would have dreamed that we would have had all of these guilty pleasures like Deadly Eyes and it's just all these other movies.
Well, no one would have heard of some of these.
No,
I mean,
I know,
obviously
but
because of
I mean,
Craven
it's
they
just-
might have, but other films,
No,
Deadly
I
Eyes,
know.
no one's watching Deadly Eyes without a re-release.
No, it's true. What about you, Cliff? If there were like a few films that
pipe
you
dream.
could just kind of get.
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
The Keep is one of them.
Yeah.
I love The Keep, yeah. I really wanted Suspiria, but Synapse got that.
Are there any other Argentos that are up for grabs still, or are they all out now?
No, I think they're all spoken
All the good
for.
ones.
Cemetery Man.
Yeah.
Where is that now?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when a title is out there in the void and no one knows, like no one can claim ownership, you just can't touch it just in case somebody comes out of the woodwork and sues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can just stay there. Is there a certain term that it would expire?
No.
No.
Not even 50 years or anything?
Not if you own it. No, of course not. Yeah. If you own the copyright on it, yeah.
Huh. But no one's coming forward for these things. It seems strange.
Yeah.
At this point, in terms of filmmakers, I think it's what's really cool about Scream Factories. You've kind of, in the same way that Criterion celebrates certain filmmakers, I love that you've put out almost all the John Carpenter stuff. Wes Craven, Stuart Gordon, Tobe Hooper, tackled them all.
Yeah.
Any other filmmakers or anything missing from the? I mean, I feel like you've covered all bases. What other filmmaker could there possibly be of the quote unquote masters of horror?
We'd love to get our hooks into Cronenberg.
Yep.
Rabid never got a Blu-ray.
Yeah, that would be
Shivers.
sort of an
Shivers.
obvious
It's a good
choice.
one.
That would be really good. I don't know. I think when you think of the handful of it's like Carpenter, Craven, Cronenberg, De Palma, to a degree Hooper. Although someone did point out, we have now successfully put out the 3 of his crazy canon classics, and that is awesome that
is
we
pretty
did.
cool.
That's
That is
pretty remarkable for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there other? I mean, Argento.
John Landis.
John Landis.
Yeah.
I
love Innocent Blood. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
We get
Let's see.
requests for
Lesser
that.
known
We
one.
get
That's
requests
good.
for that a lot,
The
for
Warner
sure.
Brothers.
Warner, damn you, Warner
Damn it.
Brothers.
Do Warner get these messages from fans that
You know
they're
what?
like the black hole of
The
releases?
thing is that they do.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've obviously been around for
Yeah.
4 years, we've blatantly said, sorry, we can't, Warner Brothers. And we have to imagine that they are getting requests on their social media or their stuff too. So
Do they just think they can't make money off this stuff?
I don't know. They've recently dipped their toes into some horror Blu-ray releases. Wolven and The Hunger came out from them recently. Yeah. I don't know how they did.
But it's just funny to start with Wolfen.
Yeah,
it was a head scratcher. Yeah. I was glad. I like the film, but I was like, okay.
You got all these Albert Finney requests, so we're going to give you Wolfen.
It's a little dry, even for a
director of
werewolf
Woodstock, which was a huge film.
Yeah,
for
maybe.
Brothers,
I mean, and you don't know,
interesting.
maybe the director is he still alive?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know. You never know if somebody just said you need to put this out. You don't know sometimes the behind the scenes.
I think they just caved to the Gregory Hines fan club. But those things are powerful, man. It's a movement.
It was an interesting choice. Yeah,
yeah. I have both of those, and they look fantastic.
Yeah, they're fine, so. But they're not. They're definitely not cranking them out quick enough, or
I hope that if they do break, it's for you guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hope the whole library spills out one day. There's so much good stuff.
We would love that,
including Candyman, right? Candyman's
Candyman is Sony.
But that's still kind of locked up.
And
that must be one of the last big like one of those titles where it's like, oh my gosh, Candyman.
Funny enough, like I said, Warner Brothers. Like if we got like The Hidden or Critters, or there's we got Creepshow. If we had Salem's Lot.
Yeah, forget how
Warner Brothers has, and then over at Sony, yes, Candyman's a big one, but then there's some other stuff in there too,
and there's different versions of the Salem's Lot. I remember there's is it a British version that's longer or something?
There's a shorter European one that's got, I guess, gore footage because it was released theatrically.
Right.
I know Mike Williamson was hunting a print.
He was trying to get a print to screen once, and that would have been cool. But
I will say this. You know what? Years ago, we didn't think we were going to get Hellhole, and we got it. Sometimes, I know it's a totally different league, but there is something to be said of casting out energy, hopeful energy.
Well, I mean, the Halloween box set.
The Halloween box set.
Unbelievable that you put that together.
Come on. I mean, we've, heaven and earth got
Keep holding out for Blood Beach, guys.
Well, you guys have sold me on Hellhole.
Yeah. I'm down for Hellhole.
Wow. Well, as always, it's always just so much fun to talk to you guys and enlightening. And
oh my God,
it's good to know the people that put these titles out are as big fans and have reverence for this material as much as we do. So we thank you for joining us on Shockwaves.
Yeah.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you
we are
so
honored
much.
to be your first guests.
Yeah.
We love what you guys do. We're so glad that hold on, can we mention Killer POV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
We're so glad that you guys got recognized recently with a Rondo Award and that you got a lot of press, Entertainment Weekly and stuff like that, because, it's just great to see, and all the type of guests that you've gotten on over the years. And, we see it up and we're like, wow, we're in really good company.
And not to toot our own horn, but I'm fairly certain that you guys at some point decided that Killer POV was the only podcast you do.
Well, I will say this.
Now
We have not done an interview for about a year, and we do that for a couple of reasons. Cliff and I appreciate our privacy to a degree, but we also felt like, for the first 3 years or so, we'd sort of told our stories through some Fangoria issues and through podcasts and some other interviews that we weren't quite sure what to tell, but we like checking in with you guys in particular every year because we also want to personally talk to our fans that way too, where we don't always have the time. We don't have the time. We're so busy actually putting out the releases and going through all the stuff. So we're speaking to you, but we're speaking to, our hardcore fans that really do support us, are very loyal. We could not do what we're doing without them. We wish we could do this more often, but there is something to be said of just kind of like holding that card to the vest a little and then giving them, out when the opportunity is.
We love it, and we thank you for using us as the outlet.
Come back just before October releases hit.
Yeah.
We'll do a whole October thing.
We'll do a whole October one.
Hey,
that could be a good comeback there.
We do have a lot of good things planned for the fall in particular. It's going to be one of our heaviest Q4s. I think people will be very, very, very thrilled.
Can't wait.
All right, let's move some Slumber Party Massacres, people.
Okay,
Do it on me.
Slumber Party Massacre.
I will rebuy it.
Excellent. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.